At last, after all that noise, all that hullabaloo that takes you here to the Spacebook channel, whatever time zone or time stream you're joining us from around the world or the universe. Welcome back to Type 40 Live here at the Spacebook channel. We've got a show for you today. It's a packed one. As the no, I won't do the gag. I won't do the gag. Don't want to spoil you, do we? Yeah, great to be here. Wherever you are and wherever I am. Where am I? Here I am. Yes. Hey! Hello, everybody. I am Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks, and your guide through the next couple of hours worth of Doctor Who related goodness. Lots coming up. I don't even know where to start. Fortunately, I've got some shipmates waiting to come on board in a second, and you guys watching there in the chat. Of course, we've got a live chat going on at the moment. Lots of our friends and companions. We prefer companions. I think we spoke about this last time. We prefer companions by a long, long way. They're over watching on Facebook and here on YouTube, the world's largest streaming platform, all live. So get your comments in as the show is going along. Let us know if we're getting it all right or getting it all wrong, and put your questions to us, because that's what we're here for this time, isn't it? It's due to popular demand. Due to popular demand, yes, we're back with Ask Us Anything. I say again, keep it clean if you can, because it is 4 p.m. in the afternoon here in Great Britain. Not sure wherever you are, what the time is there, of course, because we have people joining us from all over the world and plenty of other worlds. We've got some suspicions about some of you there, but who's here first? Megan Eurobite is present. Whew. Thank heaven for that. We couldn't have started the show without you, Megan Eurobite, could we? And Alex Storer from the Light Dreams there. He's woken just about, but he's ridiculously early too. G'day, folks. Why do I always do that in an Australian accent? Richard, good to see you, mate. Alex is sitting here thinking about Dalek colour schemes, which I assume is a totally normal thing to do. Alex, why not? If you can't beat them, join them. Heidi ho to you all. Keeps me on my toes. As always, Derek Brady's been keeping me on my toes for years over in the Type 40 Facebook group. Good to see you, Derek. And they're all comparing notes about, we've got the quarks here. Just thinking about quarks. Little spiky blighters. Yeah, it's good to see you all. Afternoon all, says disaster area. Couldn't be that much of a disaster with disaster area around. And the geek inside joining us, materializing from a hot and humid Canada. So many regulars and plenty of new people too. I think lots of people watching. It's good to know. Okay, what should we start with? Well, we have oh dear. People go straight into either talking about their food or talking about the weather whenever we go on live. I'm not going to take that personally, everyone. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm just going to move on and bring on, yes, the original Hoonatic. Of course it is. It's my mate Simon Horton.
Hello, Dan. Hello, everybody out there. I hope we're all enjoying the wonderful sunny weather that we've kind of got a little bit of today. I don't know what it's like with you, Dan. It's kind of middling.
I wouldn't say sunny. It's nowhere near as bright as your wondrous shirt that you're wearing today. There's a bit of everything on there, isn't there?
Yeah. All colours of the rainbow. I was kind of a bit concerned. It makes me look like a 12-year-old, but I don't care. I'm the Hoonatic that never grew up, so.
The inner child in all of us. Talking about people who've never grown up, Simon, I think this may appeal to you because some of our Doctor Who favourites are back in the news again this week. Now, I'm pleased to say it's a little better. It's not Noel Clarke again, basically. It's nothing like that. It's a lot better. We've got this story. So this man's been in the news today. Where is he? Here he is. Peter Capaldi.
Peter!
Doctor Who, of course. Mask off, no doubt, in preparation, getting used to the feel of fresh air on his face when we all hopefully go restriction-free in a few weeks' time. But there he is, caught on the streets of London. This was leaving rehearsal, or it may even have been an actual show that he's in at the moment, something with Zoe Wanamaker that they're in together. But yeah, I thought it was a really nice picture there of Peter. But he's also been in the news because apparently, if you remember, Peter Capaldi is not just a lifelong Doctor Who fan, but he's a lifelong musician as well. He used to be in a band back in the 70s or the early 80s called the Dream Boys with Craig Ferguson, the Scots comedian, all that sort of stuff. Well, apparently during lockdown, Peter Capaldi hasn't been lazy. he hasn't been recording anything for Big Finish like some of the others, but he hasn't been lazy. He's been writing his very first album. And the plan is now that he's free to record it and put it out. So I was wondering, what do you think? What kind of music do you see Peter Capaldi putting on this album? And would you think there'll be any cover versions or what?
Oh, gosh. Well, you know, I mean, this isn't the first time that a Doctor would have recorded stuff. I mean, I know John Pertwee recorded an album a long time ago, back in the 70s, and I've never heard it, but I don't know if it was a whole album, but he certainly recorded some songs. We say songs in the loosest possible sense of the word. I think he talked through most of them.
They were more chants, weren't they, Simon?
Yeah. Just like of course William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. You know, they've all released stuff, and it's all pretty much unlistenable. So I'm hoping that Peter's is a little bit, and then of course there's Peter Davison. We've been there before. Button Moon. We've been to Button Moon. So you know, he's got some big boots to fill, has Peter. So I hope it's better than some of those efforts.
He has indeed. Maybe he'll connect with his Scottish roots as well, and do something a bit. How can I put this? A bit traditional. What do you think, JT, as a fellow Scot? What do you reckon about this?
I'm quite excited about this because Peter is a punk guy.
He is.
He's a rocker. He's a rock and roller, and he's very good on the electric guitar, as we know, but his musical influence is very much that off-the-wall, spit in your face, throw a pint of lager across the room. I can't wait to hear what he's going to come out with.
He's not so he's not a new romantic. He's definitely
he's not like his nephew or whatever Lewis is to him. No, he's nothing like that. I think this will be very much the proper aging punk, something to say type thing, and that's why I'm excited. I can't wait to see what he's going to come up with. So great news.
In all seriousness, I half expected him to be picking up the mantle of David Bowie, but now that you've said that, I think you could be onto something. He was a punk, and I still think, bring the Malcolm Tucker to the mic.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends who he's working with as well, but I think it's going to be. I hope. And if he's watching, Peter, give us something really outrageous. Come on.
The thing is, of course, the whole world is watching this. There's a lot riding on this. He could end up with egg on his face because there's going to be a lot of attention gets on this. Bay City Rollers. Can you imagine him as an aging Bay City Roller?
It could end up with a #1 worldwide album. But if it's really that sort of, come on, if it's really that sort of thing, and it's a punk element, and it's mixing in with all that sort of stuff, he's got a seller there. Hi, Lord Darth. Nice to see you.
What do you think the album will be called then, Ian?
Do you think would they go for the?
Be called Doctor Who. Doctor Who sings
with a question mark. Doctor Who sings for you.
Probably.
I think there'll be something about time in the title of the album. I think he knows he's got us. He knows a lot of us are going to pull the trigger on that out of loyalty to Peter Capaldi. He
knows his audience, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Talking about knowing their audience, we've got
he could call it the Navarinos.
He could call it something.
We might want to sell a copy or two, so maybe not.
Well, you've got other. It's on a theme with some of the punk that's out there.
It is. Yeah, Peter. We've got lots of Peter fans here. Should be cool. Peter is great.
Yeah.
And game closet here. Simon Horton, here's a who, says Richard Brooks.
Very good.
And game closet, that's Scott, isn't it? He was on Craig's show prior to being the Doctor. He talked those punk rock days there, JT, so you're probably onto something there. But how are you this week, Ian? What's going on with you?
Nothing much. Been on other channels, getting, talking
other
about
channels?
Yeah, other channels. Being on other channels.
Don't know what
he's so cheeky, this one. What do you mean, other channels? Knock it off.
You haven't been recording a debut album then to surprise us with it?
Yes, I have with Peter Capaldi actually.
He's on a TARDIS tuner and a xylophone.
That's right. Yeah.
TARDIS tuner. Oh God, yeah.
TARDIS tuner. Who remembers the old TARDIS tuner?
Yeah.
God, I remember being gutted by that when it arrived, and all it was
a radio.
Yes.
With some funny noises on, and I was gutted, but it looked fantastic.
It's an AM radio with lights on it.
You guys actually owned one of these things?
Yeah.
I've only ever seen them at collectors' fairs and things. Did you remember these as well, Ian?
Yeah, I remember them. I never owned one though. Never owned one. It wasn't one of those things I wanted though. Where,
No.
They definitely oversold in the advert in Doctor Who Weekly. It was definitely oversold. It wasn't a TARDIS tune.
Oh no, that's the reason I got it. In Doctor Who Weekly, you had that gorgeous comic strip. Do you remember all this sort of stuff like that? I want one of those.
They made it look
big time.
They made it look so cool. People dropping in. Hey up, chaps! Just dropping in for a quick work Skype. David Southall,
Hey,
my old mate. Good
Hey
to
up,
see you.
David.
Your secret is safe with us. And Alex, also a musician here. He says that, damn, that's why I couldn't get Peter for my album.
You might do something.
Listen, I've been listening to Alex's new album, The Light Dreams, and it's fantastic. It's an instrumental album, and it's brilliant. Go out and get it. It's on Bandcamp now, and I've got it. I've been listening to it all week. It's a cracker.
Bandcamp. Sorry.
It seems we're behind on the news, everybody. Apparently, he's already released a single last year called If I Could Pray.
Oh, we'll have to look it up. Let's go and look on YouTube for that one, because I've never heard of that. I'm hoping he's going to do something like the Ramones or something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, another Doctor put out, so-called Doctor. I mean, what's his name? Hugh Laurie put an album, a jazz album out, didn't he? After he finished House. So, they're all doing it, aren't they? They're all doing it.
Yeah.
So, not surprised.
And there was that covers album last year, which featured Jodie Whittaker on there singing that Coldplay, murdering that Coldplay track. There was so much auto-tune on that recording. I'm surprised.
Oh, auto-tune.
Melt the studio.
In Distress. That was class in comparison.
So I want to know, guys. We've been taking questions from people over on Facebook and Twitter, anywhere basically that I can solicit them from. We've been taking questions all week for Ask Us Anything round 2. So, how do you feel about this? Are we feeling nervous? Are we touching cloth yet?
Yay, we're up for it.
We're up for it already. Somebody's sneaking one here. We've got a question here from watching in the chat. Question for the panel: if you had to accept a compromise, would it be Jodie or Mikey Spock?
Who's Mikey Spock?
That's Michael Burnham from Star Trek Discovery. Which is worse? Which fictional character is worse? I think they're saying it's. You know what? It's a toss up. It is a toss up.
I'd rather stick needles in my eyes.
I don't know Mikey Spock, so I'm definitely going for Mikey Spock because
don't go.
It's got to be better than what I know.
I don't know Mikey Spock either, because I've heard too much about Discovery to actually want to tune into it, which might be a bad thing. But I just thought, no, it doesn't sound like my sort of show. Well, you were one of the people. You were one of the people that said don't bother watching it. So I didn't.
It's rubbish.
I personally would rather have Michael Burnham. Because she's prettier, and most importantly, B, because I know who that character is. I don't like the character, but at least I know who she is, what she stands for. There's a consistent line with that character, which is something that I feel that we haven't got with the.
She's an original character, isn't she, Dan? She's not. She is. She wasn't once a man, for example.
No. They have created a completely new character, and a set of new characters for that show. They've kind of bolted her on because she's Mr. Spock's step sister or adopted sister or something like that.
I didn't have one of them.
Yeah, it is a little ham-fisted, but they, at least they went to some lengths to embed this character into the lore. It's the only problem I've ever had with Michael Burnham is that I just don't like her very much. So I find her very difficult to get behind. I think she does way too much crying, way too much complaining, and it's very convenient. All the things that happen to her, that everything sort of drops into her lap. That's what they call a Mary Sue, I believe, in pop culture.
You wouldn't get that with Captain Catherine Janeway now, would you?
No. All hail Captain Janeway.
We love Janeway. Wrong show, but we love Janeway.
And we've got another question here from Yet It Is. This is a new name. I don't recognise this name. Hello, all. I hope you're having a lovely day. For my question, it's if you could pitch the next Doctor Who spin-off series, what would it be? Simon?
Romana.
We've already had K9. You can't say K9 again.
No,
I can.
Romana.
I just did K9. How many times can I say K9?
Definitely a Romana spin-off. Definitely Romana.
Oh, this is interesting. So definitely Romana in her own adventures rather than taking over the main show. So off doing her own thing. And who would you cast in that?
I'd probably cast the girl that was in Captain America. I keep forgetting her name.
Haley Atwell.
Haley Atwell. Probably cast her. I think she's great. Probably cast her, and she'd be terrific. And I'll write it and I'll direct it, and it'll be awesome. There you go.
Can't argue with that. I think if I was to conceive a new spin-off from Doctor Who, I think I would make it a sort of. I don't think they were wrong with Class going for an ensemble for a small ensemble cast. I've got same with Torchwood. I suppose Sarah Jane was an ensemble in the end, really, wasn't it?
Sarah Jane was the best.
I think they're right to have those sort of 4, maybe 5 main characters, and I also think that there should be at least one alien in the mix. But you know what? Again, this is why I've always felt that Class didn't have it all wrong. I would create some new characters and embed it into the lore somewhere, the actual fabric of the Doctor Who universe. So maybe I'd have one of them be a Draconian or something like that. I would find a way to embed it in rather than to spin off a character that we already know. I would play off of a culture that we already know, or spinning out of an event, either classic series or Time War or something since. I don't know. I would take that element and I would do. I hate to say this. I'm going to draw on something that John Ainsworth said when I talked to him about Big Finish and Blake 7 last year. I would make, if we look at Doctor Who as the next generation, I would make the Deep Space Nine equivalent of Doctor Who and have something going along parallel. And I mean, you could say they did that again. They did.
They've done it. They've done it all. They did it with Sarah Jane. They did it with Torchwood. That all ran parallel to the Doctor's adventures in the proper show.
I wouldn't. The only difference is I wouldn't set it on the Earth. I would set it somewhere else. Either have human beings or aliens in another culture, or maybe even living in another time. So I'd probably set it all in one time.
That's what Bob and Dave always said was wrong with the K9 and Company pilot, wasn't it? With no disrespect to anyone involved with it, but they always thought that it should be K9 in space with Leela.
Yeah.
There needs to be that clash. There needs to be a clash of cultures somehow. And I think the K9 show, when we talked about it, we talked about it with Bob and Paul on our episode about K9. And I think we've spoken about it since, how the idea with that show was to take it in different directions. It wasn't going to be a sort of a murder mystery, midsummer murder kind of thing every week. They did plan on doing other things with it, but even so, I think it was too. I would say kitchen sink, because it wasn't. It was sort of the body in the library kind of story. I don't think that's right for Doctor Who either. Ian, have you got any ideas about storytelling, or would you just keep it really simple?
What for K9?
For a Doctor Who spin-off show, really?
I wouldn't go for the reason why I didn't like Class was because it's the same reason why I don't like Harry Potter, is because I'm working class and I couldn't relate to any of those kids, nor could I relate to anyone in class whatsoever. So I would never go down that route as a filmmaker, whatever. I will definitely do Romana, because I think Romana the fans know Romana, plus we'll introduce it to the new fans, her to the new fans. Plus, it's a good balance between the Doctor, who's a male, and Romana, who's a female, and go down that route, in my opinion, and create a whole new world for her. Maybe sometimes they cross over a couple of times, whatever, that'd be cool. And do it that way, and concentrate and make sure that she's feminine, make sure that she's, I hate to say this, pretty, make sure that she looks fantastic, and make sure that the adventures are edge of your seat stuff, monster stuff, all the stuff that Doctor Who's known for.
Yeah.
Also, would you move forward with it though, Ian, or would you do? Because Game Closet here in the chat mentioned something we get a lot: a Time War show. People talk about a Time War show a lot with Paul McGann Doctor. Would you do that? Would you go back to a time in Doctor Who history, or would you push on?
No. Look, there's no point in going backwards. I mean, we've had so many member berries. It's ridiculous. I agree. Right? We should go forward and give Romana, original villains, original monsters, and move forward like Doctor Who exists. But we should go forward, like we're creating new stuff. Create new stuff for the new generation. That's what we should be doing, in my opinion.
I think, as I'm thinking now, what I think I'd be interested in is a Gallifrey series. So the whole thing is set on Gallifrey. So Romana could come into it, because in my world, Romana is Lord President. I buy that. So and that would be good, a Gallifrey series, but set in the kind of Gallifrey that I know and love from The Deadly Assassin. That kind of Gallifrey. I can see that being interesting. So you'd have the political angle that you obviously get that goes with Gallifrey, but then you've got the interference with alien species, other planets, etc., etc. I can. There'd be a lot of that'd be pretty fertile ground. I think
They did it with Krypton, didn't they? And it failed.
Oh, that was terrible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I tried
Really
to
bad
watch
show.
it. Oh,
Yeah.
awful, really bad.
Yeah,
I felt for them every second that they were in it. I was like, oh god, that's awful.
The cast were really good in that. They worked. They
They were
really
trying.
worked hard, didn't
You could see them trying, couldn't you? But no wonder it was axed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another question. They're coming thick and fast, these questions. We've got Retro Dicky here saying, would you bring back the missing episodes with deep fake if money was no object?
Yes.
Especially
JT?
the second Doctor. Yes.
Well, quick. Can I just say what the series I would do, because I'm not into any continuity, just very quickly, because I'm not into all that sort of stuff. I would just bring back. I would want a war series starring the Daleks. And a proper war series where they're just trampling over everything and bang, 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 and get rid of, and then guess things and resistance fighters and that whole special effect thing. I would just Dalek, kill everybody. And their machinations are really bringing that out. Would I bring back the missing episodes with deep fake if money was no object? If there was a market for it and I'd have to be proven that the fans wanted it, and then I wouldn't bring it back on television. I would put it onto the Blu-ray box sets or the equivalent.
Yeah. I think there's a huge market for it, tell you the truth.
There is, yeah.
Imagine a deep fake version of the missing episodes of Patrick Troughton. That would
you see,
amazing.
I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't watch it personally. I wouldn't be comfortable with it at all. I don't know. Having seen some of the stuff that's out, I feel uncomfortable with it.
I don't know.
It's starting to look better. Simon and I interviewed a guy called Kieran Hyman, and he is working on things like colorizations and whatnot.
Yeah.
But he's also experimented with deep fake too. Partly performing himself and mixing it in with. He must put it through 4 or 5 different deep fake processes, just like Retro Dicky says here. And the things that he was putting on, I think it was on Twitter, say 2 years ago, compared to the stuff that I saw him put out just after Christmas, was a country mile better. Almost to the point where if you squinted, you could believe that was Patrick Troughton.
You have to get permission, I think, because if you use their likeness, you have to get permission off the family and stuff like that.
You would have to do that.
Yeah,
but I mean, they're obviously getting the permission to do that for the animations that they endlessly keep churning out. And to be honest, I'm not really very impressed. I'm being brutally honest. I'm not very impressed with a lot of the animation that I'm seeing on these.
It's very one-dimensional.
Evil of the Daleks just doesn't rocket for me. What was the one that was recently out? It's not brilliant animation. I'm sorry. I'm sure there's a lot of work goes into it, but it can't be that difficult to make Patrick Troughton look like Patrick Troughton, can it? But it clearly is.
A lot of the fans keep saying it looks like.
What I'm saying is, I'd rather see them have a go at deep fake.
Yeah,
because they can't do any worse than the animations.
But that's a huge production, though. If you did a deep fake, you'd have to get the actors in with the same build as Patrick Troughton, the same height. You have to get all the other actors and stuff like that.
But we are talking money, no object. We're talking.
Yes, I'm saying. So you have to shoot. You have to create the sets. You have to shoot everything, and do you know what I mean? And it's a huge production.
They've got a guy. They work on the animation on the animated ones in certain instances where they haven't got so many telesnaps and things. They have to try and recreate the actors, say, for example, Patrick Troughton's body language. So they have certain actors that they work with. It's not quite rotoscoping, but it's not far off. And they get the actor to basically act it out, and they draw and animate around that for certain key scenes in those animated stories. So I think that once those two mediums kind of mingle, we may see it evolve into something like that. By which point they'll all have been animated in 2D. So, they'll start animating them all again. I don't know. I think that I don't think there's any breaks on this, certainly in our lifetimes. As long as we're prepared to pay to see whatever creative people bring to life, I think they'll carry on doing it, Simon.
Well, I think what they did on, say, for instance, the first Captain America, where they made Evans look really thin. But it was really good. I mean, it did look like he was really thin and small and tiny. So, I mean, that was like 10 years ago, wasn't it? I think it was over 10 years ago now. Imagine what they can do today, I just thought when I saw that, I did cringe a little bit thinking, right, who's wearing the green sleeve?
Woomph, and merge. And I just thought, oh, please.
But it was really well. It was really well done, in my opinion. Really, really well done. I thought. I was convinced.
I still think it's the wrong body for the face.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Anyway,
we've got another question here, which I think some of you may have answers to. From Disaster Area, what was your favourite Wilderness Years spin-off video?
Oh my
JT.
God. Oh my
JT,
God.
did you buy those? Did you support those? And is there a favourite?
Did I support them? I supported a couple of them. I would usually let other people buy them and we'd all go around and watch them at theirs on video because I wasn't ever convinced. I think they all had major faults, personally. The one I don't have a favorite. I'll be very honest. I don't have a favorite. I think they're all quite,
have a similar quality.
Yeah. So I would say, I liked the cast of Downtime, which was written by Mark Platt. That's what it was called, wasn't it? Downtime with the
Yeti.
It didn't quite hit the production standards I was asking for, but if I'm said which one would you watch again, it would have to be that, purely because we've got Liz in there, we've got Debs in there, we've got the Brig with Nick is in there, and we've got some very thin Yetis. That's the only reason I would watch it again.
Ian, one of your friends was actually in one of these Wilderness Years spin-off videos, wasn't he? The late Julian Booth?
Oh, yes, Julian was in a lot of them, actually. And he used to help behind the scenes as well. So when he wasn't in it, he was like helping, making props and stuff like that. So yeah, he had a whale of a time, he said, when he was doing it.
I'm sure they did, yeah.
Did you get to see any of them? And if so, did you have a
I
favourite?
saw one and that was enough for me. I was like, no, I can't be watching this stuff. But I remember because they used to sell them in Forbidden Planet. They used to have them on, remember those spinny shelves?
Yeah.
Where they used to the comic, used to have them on there with the VHSs on there.
That's right.
I remember going in there and thinking to myself, this isn't Doctor Who, because they try to make it look like Doctor Who, don't they? The covers and everything.
They did for a while, yeah. When they released The Stranger into Woolworths, do you remember that when they put them out on the Pickwick label for $10.99 each? And they even gave The Stranger a diamond logo, and they were painted covers like just like the BBC video range at the time. Yeah. Very, very cheeky, and it kind of worked. I remember people pointing at them and asking what it was.
A lot of people brought them.
I bought them. I supported them from the get-go. Everything that BBV did and everything that Real Time did drama-wise.
It reminds me of, guys. It reminds me of, I'm sure JT will remember this, is the Top of the Pops albums. Remember them?
Do you remember that? Which wouldn't be allowed now. They would not be allowed now.
Were they K-Tell?
Yeah,
K-Tell. Yeah. What they were, for people watching, these Top of the Pops albums were covers of hit records that were out at the time because they couldn't afford to pay the actual other. And they would always have a gorgeous woman on the front, which was the selling point. Almost naked. Yeah, it wouldn't be allowed now. Wouldn't be allowed. And you've got now and everything now.
Bloody do-gooders.
JT, it was sung by one person.
Were they all sung by the same person?
One person, yeah. And he also did the female voices as well, the female tracks. One guy, yeah, crazy.
And then when Now started, of course, they all disappeared. Bang, you're gone. History. Bye, ladies.
There was a range just before Now called Chart Hits, which sort of joined the gap, didn't they, between those two ranges? But I think if I was to pick one of these videos, I'd go with Downtime too. I think it's very, very watchable. And although it's still got lots of faults, I feel there's a lot of sort of action in there. I say kind of, action. But the characters that we recognise and love are consistently well written, in line with their previous personas, and they're developed a lot too. Simon, did you see many of these?
I saw some of them. I remember watching the first Stranger video, and it was literally the most joyless half an hour of my life. So I gave up at that point. I recently saw the Air Zone solution, and I'm still in therapy for seeing Colin Baker and Nicola Bryant in bed together. I'm still going through therapy.
I love the Air Zone solution.
They're really not my cup of tea. But I would like to just say, while we're on the subject of spin-off videos, I want to show you this, because this week yesterday I received this through the post, and somebody very, very kindly has sent me this through the post, and if they're out there watching, they know exactly who they are, so I'm not going to name them because they know who they are. Thank you very much for this. This was a present from somebody this week because I did them a favour, and they've sent me this as a present, so thank you. And I'm made up with this, because what this is This is from Real Time, and this is Panopticon 7, which I was at. And this is the famous one from 1986, when Trial of a Time Lord, episode 1, was screened on the big screen in front of 1,000 people, and I was there. And I've never seen the video. And it's great because it's obviously on here when they do the big countdown and everybody let the party poppers off a minute early because they let them off thinking the Doctor was about to start. And it wasn't. It was a trailer for Noel's house party or something instead. But it's all on here, and I watched it last night, and it was brilliant. It was a great walk down memory lane. So these are my kind of spin-off videos. I really don't get excited by seeing Nicola Bryant and Colin Baker in bed together trying to make out it's a Doctor Who video. Give me some proper stars from Doctor Who talking about Doctor Who at a convention. That's my idea of fun. And thank you to the person that sent me that this week. Thank you.
We've got another question here for you, JT.
Yep.
It is from Mega the Extremist. Question for JT. What's your favourite Doctor Who item in your whole collection? That's a bit of a
God,
tall
have
order,
you got
isn't
an hour?
Hi, Mega the Extremist. Do you know what? I had a feeling that somebody might, at some point during these shows, ask me that. So I've been thinking about this for ages, and I've got it. I've actually got it here because it's this.
Hey.
Okay.
And the reason it's that is because that was the first piece of merchandise I was ever given, and it was given to me by my mum when I was ill off school.
Oh.
And if it hadn't been for the Target range and this particular book and my mum buying me this, I would never have understood that there was Doctor Who merchandise around, and this room would never have existed. But it smells beautiful. It's really old. That's the first copy.
Is that your original copy as well? That is.
Yeah. Can you see the side? Can you see that?
First edition copy of the Web of Fear, and who wrote that one?
That's Terence.
The great Terence.
And what's the price on the back? What would that have been?
35p, I'm guessing.
45p.
45. Oh, they've gone up.
Yeah.
We got JT's mum to blame for JT.
yeah, but that's it. But there you go, Mega. That's my, and that's a lot of thought I've heard. But that's my favorite.
Ooh, what's this?
Very, very good. Yes, a nice comment here from in your direction. The more I hear from Mega Geek, the more I respect his views. There you go.
Hey, at least somebody does.
Always good.
You'll have to listen to him on a Saturday afternoon on the Spacebook, talking about all the other stuff, honestly, and then come back to us and tell us what you think about it.
Exactly.
Somebody here picking up, it's Digby Strawbridge is picking up your idea, JT, about the Daleks, an animated version of the Dalek comic strips.
It would be great because, you know, it was
they just tried that, though. They just tried that with CGI animation.
Yeah, but
no. If you've got
make it.
If you've got the live action series Terry Nation always wanted. I mean, who was talking about the Dalek color schemes earlier?
That was Alex Storr.
Alex, well, listen, can you imagine that? I mean, you could have fleets of these things. You could have ranks of these things. I think the kids would love that as well. And imagine the toys.
What was the Dalek task force, the anti-Dalek task force led by Joel in the annuals? I want to see that show, definitely.
There's a lot of scope, isn't there? And especially if you're going to put it on at Saturday team time at 6 o'clock or something, and it's just all about the Daleks with the resistant fighters and stuff. I'd want to see that. Yes, please.
You know what, right?
Definitely caught people's imaginations.
Yeah,
here.
do you know what, JT? You're absolutely right. It just goes to show that the BBC do not want to give us what we want as fans. I mean, that's such a great idea, isn't it? To have a Daleks, TV show, especially on Saturday, evening.
I'd go back to Terry Nation's original idea. I would get that script from the Destroyers out with Sarah Kingdom in it or somebody like that, and I would make that. I'd maybe retool it a little, but I would make that. I think there's plenty. If they can go back, because we're going back to Star Trek again, but they're about to launch a Star Trek show called Strange New Worlds, a new Star Trek franchise show, which is at its core the original. They're doing it, believe it or not, they're doing that due to popular demand because people did ask for it. But more importantly, all it really is, it's Captain Pike, #1, and a young Mr. Spock, exactly the same as the setup for the original Star Trek pilot script, The Cage. But this is Gene Roddenberry's original pitch for Star Trek, basically. Just like that Daleks, the Destroyer show was Terry Nation's pitch for that show. So in a sense, even the version of Star Trek that we got eventually was certainly very, very similar, but it was different. And if you watch The Cage compared to where No Man has gone before, you can see the differences. But that's finally getting made nearly 60 years later. So could Terry Nation's Daleks just get picked up? And And
well, to be honest, I wouldn't want it on the BBC now. For the same reason, I wouldn't want Terry Blake 7 coming back to the BBC. It would have to be an independent one. It would have to be some of the proper
on Netflix or Amazon Prime. They'd really run with it, wouldn't they?
If it's done by the proper production company that understands the menace and the fact that these things should be terrifying, and of course you'd have to get the BBC sign off, you'd have to get the nation state sign off. But
been infected, though, haven't they? Netflix has now been infected.
Well, some of the shows have. Some of the shows you have to pick and choose.
We have to say this is one of those disclaimers, a Type 40 disclaimer, just like the one about the current logo. No, we don't like it either. It's the same with this. Maybe if the current climate was different, it has to be the proviso on all this speculation, because most of these ideas would never get out of the trap, would they? Talking about an idea that never got out of the trap, Derek Brady's got another suggestion here. How about a Young Doctor spin-off show? Now, if you remember, they did. Russell T Davies was approached by CBBC originally to do this in 2005. Turned them down flat for very good reason, didn't he, Simon?
Well, but let's not forget, I'm going to go right back to 1965 now, because that was
when I was born.
Hartnell's idea. We're back to the Son of Doctor Who, which we talked about briefly on this show a while ago. William Hartnell wanted a spin-off show called The Son of Doctor Who, and the Son of Doctor Who would have been an evil son, and so the Doctor would have fought his own son in a. I mean, let's be honest. Bless him. We love William Hartnell, but was it ever going to work? No, of course it wasn't. Which is why it never got off the ground. But we've had a young Doctor Who series kicking around literally since 1965. Who knows? Wouldn't work for me.
No, it doesn't interest me at all.
No.
But having said that, I mean, we're talking in terms, when you think of a spin-off show, you think of an ongoing show. That's what we, particularly us older ones, we think of create a TV show, have it run ideally for a few years. But now we are living in an age of something called the event show, aren't we? Where things are conceived and brought to the screen deliberately as one-off runs of anywhere between 5 and 10 episodes. And as Game Closet here, I would not mind seeing the Doctor and the Master in their early Academy days, but stipulates that it should be a short one-off series. Now, Big Finish did this for Davros.
They didn't, did they?
Big Finish did this
of
for
course
Davros.
They did.
No, Big Finish did this.
They love stories.
Okay. Big Finish did this for Davros. They did a limited series called I, Davros, about Davros as a teenager, and that period, the dawn. It's one of the best. It's one of the best. Honestly, this is one of the best pieces of audio drama I have ever heard. We're going back here to. This has been at least 15 years ago when Big Finish was in its infancy. And this was one of the very first new ideas they tried. And I cannot recommend this series enough. It is absolutely outstanding. And the fact that they've never gone back to it, they told it across 4 stories, very concise, very clean stories, and it all had this wonderful arc to it, and they've never ever revisited the characters, the setup, or anything. It was absolutely perfect. And if they were to do that on TV, it was about Davros as a student who was sort of picked out of class and fast tracked by all the if you think back to how Spock was in Star Trek, the Science Academy, what they did with that character in that, it's similar to that. I mean, this, like I say,
so did he still have the one eye and stuff? And was he?
No. This is when he was completely humanoid and around, I'd say, from the age of say 15, it took him up to his early 20s, and it was about how somebody with originally noble intentions could fall prey to megalomania, basically, over a short period of time.
Well, I'm sorry, I think that sounds absolutely boring. I mean, the whole thing about Doctor Who. Well, this is one thing the BBC doesn't understand right now either. The key is in the title. It's Doctor Who. Never explain the character's origins. This is what Chibnall has just done and got it wrong. Yeah, but a spin-off is a spin-off. But, I mean, why bother? If it's but still, I mean, if a case of Davros, I think that's just bullshit, man. I mean, the whole thing about Davros is it comes into Genesis of the Daleks, and he's just there. Why do fans especially have this need to have everything explained? Yeah. Get on with it.
In my case, we've got a few people here saying how great that series was, and in my case, I was buying the main range of Doctor Who releases for a long time, and I thought that this sounded like the most boring thing in the world, and I only bought it when it was on special offer on the Big Finish website. So I got it at a discount, and this was like 10 12 years later, and what was I thinking? This is fantastic. And I bought the Cybermen series shortly after that as well. That's really good too. So I know that they've gone on now. They've got so many spin-off things. It's ridiculous. But back when I bought it, there was only 3 or 4, and they'd made some and then kind of dropped it. They'd made a finite amount and then dropped it, which they don't really do anymore. They kind of spin things like Lady Christina out, and they'll try anything basically, which I can't but lose a little respect for them over some of the things that they've tried. But there was integrity in this production, and I can accept that it probably wouldn't be for everybody. Sorry, and yeah, I didn't pull the trigger on it for years, but I didn't regret it at all.
Yeah, I didn't even like the little boy Davros turning up in the Peter Capaldi episode. I thought that was just wrong.
That was awful. That was absolutely terrible. I
why bother? Why bother trying to do something clever?
But in the same way, I didn't like seeing the little boy master appear in Was It Sound of Drums. I didn't want to see that either.
I didn't mind that.
Or the little boy doctor in the Peter Capaldi era as well. Yeah, I mean, that just wasn't... That to me crossed the line. That was like, hang on a minute. No, we don't see the Doctor as a kid. We don't see his background. Don't explain it because the character is Doctor Who.
That pushed me a little. I must admit it
when you really said that, when you said about the master, I thought it was the master looking like the way he does, asking a girl out in class, going, "You will go out with me."
No, but there is a girl in his life, Ben. And,
oh dear.
And I don't think you meet his family, but there's certainly his peers and his teachers and things like that. You know, it's very much.
Did they show what's for dinner?
It's very much about but it's about his academic. It's about his academic and scientific growth, and how a young man who has good intentions ultimately becomes corrupt, and where ultimate power eventually could take one. It doesn't spell out the whole story. It's sort of more points in the direction. It doesn't. Hang on a minute. It doesn't take you up to Genesis or anything like that.
I'm getting flashes of Anakin Skywalker here. It's been done. A
little, but obviously this even came out before Revenge of the Sith. You know, and it has that.
Did it come out before Star Wars?
But it has that stage kind of quality. It comes across as serious drama. Obviously, it is a sci-fi, but yeah, it's I can't recommend it highly enough because obviously
Megamind, man. At that time. Have you seen Megamind?
I have seen Megamind.
I've seen Megamind.
I do like that. I do like that. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break from the questions.
Well, that was quick.
For a little while. We've got plenty more coming up because I was going to get stuck into this earlier on. I mean, first of all, I should say that if you're here joining us now here live, and you've been here for however long we've been talking, please like the video. Take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel too, because we do this all the time, this kind of talk and general Doctor Who stuff. So this comes at you on a regular basis. You don't want to miss the next time, do you? So please subscribe to the channel. We get a lot of people watching, not subscribing. Let's sort that out and hit the little bell. Hit the cloister bell so you get notified when we go live next. This is our last show for a couple of weeks. We're taking our mid-season break for a bit of a rest.
Questions.
Coming back with more of the good stuff, but you're not going to want to miss when we're back and all the other video content that comes off the Spacebook channel here on YouTube. So hit the little bell and subscribe, please. We've got a couple of exclusives coming up. I mean, later on in the show, we're going to reveal all about how you can enter a competition to win a copy of this little beauty. Let's get it up on screen.
Not that.
So this is the competition. This is an exclusive competition courtesy of Candy Jar Books to win a copy of Clack. This is the incredible art book that they put out a few months ago. The Doctor Who art of Chris Achilleos, an essential Doctor Who item for everybody's library out there. We've got our video. We've got our review up on the channel, haven't we, Simon? That was episode 80 of the podcast /vodcast. You can watch that. That's just been put back up on the Type 40 Facebook page too for you to watch all over again. And a bit later on in the show, there's details about how you can win a copy of Clack.
Woohoo!
That's amazing. The art's amazing.
Oh,
keep watching. Keep watching for all of that. It really is a seminal book. Something else. We've got another exclusive, everybody. Now, a couple of weeks ago, if you remember, we had something on. We had a little clip, didn't we, from Invasion of the Dinosaurs? Do you remember that, JT? It was in. It was a recolored clip. Yep. We were fortunate enough to get from Who Color, which is a Twitter account that is sort of colorizing and recolorizing whatever he can get his hands on. And yeah, so
That we're
he's
in.
got a YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel and lots of works in progress. And yeah, they really appreciated the fact that we had got that up on screen. Give a bit of a boost to the social media profile and all the rest of it. And sure enough, there's more items that have come out since, more recolored images. But we've been offered this exclusive from WhoColor to premiere now. This is so WhoColor. He expressly stipulates this is a work in progress, everybody. It's a work in progress. So this is a clip from the Ark. And I mean, if this is the kind of thing that WhoColor is working on, check this out now.
Go on in.
I'm going to play it twice because obviously it's not very long, but we'll play it twice. You can have a good look. Here we are.
We're landing now, Doctor.
Good. That means the gravitational bearing must have rectified itself.
Oh,
We're landing now, Doctor.
Good. That means the gravitational bearing must have rectified itself.
That's really good.
Hey!
It is, isn't it? I was really, really
I
impressed
want to
by
see
that.
that.
The colours are so vivid, almost as vivid as your shirt, Simon.
But the thing is, though, it's
Well,
so detailed. You can see that it's just like a cardboard cutout of the roundels behind him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, you can see it in black and white, obviously, but it makes it even more. You know now it's a
Obvious,
bloody
yeah.
cutout, but it's still great, isn't it?
Very
I just thought
impressive.
that was absolutely knockout, and it was nice to see that they've gone to the trouble of coming out with the yellow and the red little balls on the ends of the levers. I mean, I've said before now that one of the John Pertwee stories that really used to bore me, that bore the life out of me, was The Mind of Evil. And now I see it in colour, and it's actually one of my favourite John Pertwee stories. Somehow the colour
you're so fickle.
But
You're so fickle, you are. Is that
I
right?
am fickle.
I think
Give it me in colour. Give it me in colour. I want to see the world in colour.
But I think I think the mistake this guy's making is that he should upscale it first before he colors it. Because if you there's programs out that can upscale it to 4K or to a bigger format, and then he should color it because that clip looked a bit blurred. I don't know, maybe I know it's a work in progress, but he should upscale it before he does anything to it, really.
Well, I didn't notice that as a layman, and I thought it was gorgeous.
No.
I thought it was fabulous.
There you go. I better shut up then.
Yeah, shut up, you. Shut
Queen
it.
Charlotte here watching in the chat says, I wouldn't know it was originally black and white from that.
Yeah.
And I must agree. It's getting that way. And bear in mind, again, this is a work in progress.
Technology.
WhoColor is
Amazing.
still working on this. What I noticed was the green given to the TARDIS console there, Simon.
Yeah.
Because of
Which
the
is
colour
correct.
put on there, you could see
Yeah.
all the lumps. You could see what it was made of because it's kind of like you were saying, Ian.
Yeah.
You can see that it was made of plywood and various bits of old crap, but it doesn't rob it of any of its charm somehow.
And the thing is, I mean, we've talked about this before, a couple of years back, actually, about, I remember really pushing this idea of colorizing old episodes. And somebody said to me at one point, yeah, but what color would you do the TARDIS console? And I straight away said, pale green, because that was the color it was.
That was the color, yeah.
Absolutely.
It was that color.
Absolutely.
And so that's the correct color to do it.
Yeah.
And the way I look at this, I've always said with this, is that I can see Alex has said in the chat that they were designed to be done in black and white.
Yes,
I actually don't agree with that. Okay, they were designed because black and white was all they could put out there. But if you look at the behind-the-scenes shots of things like the Aztecs, which is the classic example, no, it was designed in colour, but they could only record in colour, in black and white. The fact is, had they had colour cameras available to them at the time, it would have been done in colour. So to me, it's always valid to colorise these episodes as long as we keep the black and white. I'm not saying replace the black and white with colour episodes, but
I have to say,
alternative, the opposite. The other chance is brilliant to see them in colour.
I think it's only fair for me to say as well, isn't it, Simon, that I was like Alex, wasn't I, until around a year ago?
Yeah.
I was completely of that mind, and I've just been completely turned around on it. So I do see where Alex is coming from, and I'm not saying everybody's got to be converted, but I really am. Yeah.
And to clarify, don't get me wrong, I love the black and white episodes. The Web of Fear is one of those episodes that I might pull out and say that would probably never work in colour because it's part of the charm of it being in black and white that makes that one episode work. So don't get me wrong, I love the black and white episodes. probably An Unearthly Child, the first episode, is another case in point. Would that look right in colour? Part of its charm, again, is that fuzzy black and whiteness of it. But as I say, to be able to offer an alternative, the same as when you have the alternative CGI effects on, and you've got the choice to watch them just as a bit of curiosity. You might only watch it once, but as a curiosity to watch it bring a new dimension to the show, I'm still desperate for these to come
But you know what, right? If BBC did go this route and they decided to colorize all the first Hartnell episodes, and they did it properly and upscaled them and everything, they'd make a fortune. I for a start would buy that whole box set if they did it. I would, and they'd make a fortune. They'd be cleaning up. They really would. But BBC is so stupid.
To answer Crimpling Doubloon down there, no, they wouldn't have lit it differently for black and white. They would have changed certain things. So, as we've already talked about, the TARDIS console is painted pale green so that it comes out as grey on screen, rather than if you painted it grey, it would have come out as white. But no, lighting-wise, they weren't doing... There is... I'm going to get really deep now. That Ian will probably know about this, but in film terms, there's a term called chiaroscuro, which is to do with the stark contrast between black and white. Now, in some film noir films, they actually do crank the chiaroscuro up deliberately because it's an aesthetic decision. In Doctor Who, bless them, no, they were just churning it out from Riverside. There was no change with the lighting.
Also, to add to that, Crimpeline as well, just please be aware that actually the BBC was still in its infancy in the 60s. Yes. It was still trying to find how things to do. And a lot of people had come to the BBC through theatre. So a lot of the lighting, what we've now known as the lighting crews or the lighting directors, were actually from theatre as well. So there would have been lights everywhere. I know from reading stuff about it that they had more of an adjustment to colour. Because that was brand new. That was totally different. That showed every nook and cranny. Similar to what happened many, many years later when we went to HD television, where everybody's going, "Oh God, we need new everything," because you can see the rip in the set, all this sort of stuff. So I would say no, there wouldn't have been many things different, but they certainly would have adjusted and experimented more. And Doctor Who's the place you can see the artists learning their trade, because Doctor Who was the place they experimented for everything, and that's the beauty. The other element of Doctor Who is you can go through from 63 to 89, and there's the experimentations that would benefit other shows, other productions, other channels. It's all there. It's chronicled. Also, it's a history piece.
They have classic films out on 4K, and I was watching Back to the Future a couple of days ago, and the very first back, the ending where where the DeLorean appears and Doc Brown comes out and goes, "Marty, you got to go back to the future." Remember that bit? When the car repairs, it's so clear you can see the stuntman driving.
Can
the
you
car.
in the car?
You're wearing Doc Brown's wig. You can see him clearly. I'm like, oh my Lord. So you get that too.
It's really weird, actually. It's really weird because when you said classic film there, Mega Geeky, I automatically thought the Battle of the Britain films and everything in black and white.
Falcon or something like that.
Oh, and also, just to answer, I can see there's a couple of questions coming through now on the chat about Mega the Extremist is saying, why would you do the console green when it was intended to be white? And if that's the case, would you paint the TARDIS floor blue? Yeah, I would. I would go with the colours that it was when it was made in colour. Well, I know that the intention was maybe different, but the TARDIS console was pale green, so I would keep it pale green. It was as it was in real life. And also, to answer the rabbi's question, who says, when you watch the animations, do you watch them in colour? Yeah, right, I watch them in colour. Why would you watch a black and white animation?
I'm going back on everything I said before. I insist on watching them in black and white. I've got no interest in watching them in colour. I don't know why. Alex, help me out. I don't know why, Alex Storer. Why aren't I doing that with everything that I've just said about colorization? For some reason, I want to watch them in black and white. I think I want to convince myself that I'm watching missing episodes that have been returned. I think that's what it is. I'm now reflecting and analysing myself as I'm talking. Bringing
you are, aren't you? Can I just add about that whole TARDIS thing as well? I'm with Simon. I would actually, because, in this day and age where we know the TARDIS, you can't really say that original TARDIS with its pale green and its blue floor is incorrect, because it might have been the way the Doctor wanted it at the time. I mean, why is the TARDIS now coral or pink or looking like a lobster or an upturned spider or anything like that? It's just the way the Doctor wants it at the time.
Well, and
There you
also, JT, this is always my justification as well. I can see again in the chat, Action by Havoc has said in season 7, the TARDIS console is green. And it is. Because it's a console. So that is a legitimate colour. The original TARDIS console is seen in colour in season 7 as green.
It still is in series 10 as well, to an extent. I watched the new season 10 box set that was released yesterday, the standard edition. Got 3 Doctors in and Carnival of Monsters in last night. But the 3 Doctors is still a but you know, let's be
as well. It's green in season 8.
I think so. But let's be really geeky here and tie this in with the 4th Doctor complaining about the TARDIS not having any lack of colours when he goes back into in Control Room 1 with Leela and he says, oh, it's all bland, blah, blah, blah. Because originally he may have had colours in it. They are. Sorted.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we've got another question. I'm just wondering, Action by Havoc, what's this account on YouTube? Do they make their own content? Like, that's a great name. But yeah, we've just had a question for you there, Simon. But I've got another question for you. A format question. I'd like to know. Yes, it's that time of the show again, I'm afraid, JT. Get your headphones. Get your earphones.
I've left them in the other room. This is really annoying.
Jam your fingers in your ears, son. Here it comes. Yes, because I'd like to know, Simon, what is in your 500-year diary for today, on this day, the 6th of July, in Doctor Who history? Here we go, everybody. Hold tight.
Right. Okay, here we go. Right, we're off and running. 2009, 12 years ago, the whole of this week was taken up by Torchwood Children of Earth. 5 episodes of Children of Earth every day for the entire week in 2009. Have to be honest, I didn't watch it at the time because I hated Torchwood so much. It was of no interest to me. I've seen it since because so many people have said, oh, you've got to watch Children of Earth. It's amazing. Yep. And I have to say, hand on heart, yeah, they are. It's by far the best Torchwood I've ever seen. And it is actually pretty good television. It has its problems. I personally think it's got some real holes in the plot, a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense, and it never quite delivers on its setup. But overall, I have to be honest, I did rate Children of Earth.
Yeah, I thought it was
what did anybody else think?
Absolutely brilliant.
I disagree with you, Simon, because that week I watched it every night. Okay. And I don't recall the plot holes, and I think the resolution was terrifying. That show was how Torchwood should have been. It should have been miniseries. It should have been contained. It shouldn't have been Monster of the Week. It should have been scaring the tits off everybody that was watching it. Yeah. And that week as well for Children of Earth was really good because the ratings in Britain were great for that show, which had a knock-on effect, obviously, to Doctor Who. And it was just a joyous week. But I think that template there that for me was Torchwood, and I am not a Torchwood fan. That for me, I will watch anytime though. But when you watched it day by day, it was completely different to a binge watch.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I actually got round to watching it a couple of years ago, I did exactly as it was meant to be done. I did it one day at a time, one episode per evening.
It was really intense.
It was intense, and bearing in mind, I can't begin to tell you how much I hated that first series of Torchwood. I don't even know how many series there were of Torchwood because I stopped watching it after about episode 3.
2 and then 2 sequels, really, yeah.
Oh, it was terrible. But Children of Earth, I must be honest, it did turn me around. I thought the alien was brilliant. I thought the way they visualized it was brilliant. I thought the language was clever. It was clever. Who was it? Russell T Davies that wrote it? I'm guessing it was.
Yes, it was. Yeah, he rearranged the team.
and I generally don't rate Russell T Davies very highly, but no, I take my hat off to you on that one. It worked.
And Capaldi was brilliant.
Yeah, I'd forgotten Capaldi was in it. He was
his second brush with Doctor Who. Yeah, he was leading up to the big man.
We've got too dark for me, says Vanessa Law. So
see, Vanessa, I think that's why it worked because it's totally different to Doctor Who.
That's why it works for me. It's the darkness of it. That's why I didn't like Torchwood. It was too airy-fairy.
But do you remember when they came along with Torchwood, they were playing on this whole thing that it was going to be an adult version of Doctor Who, and it wasn't. I mean, swear words and sexual connotations is not adult. Get over yourself. Do you know what I mean?
No,
but Children of Earth was. Children of Earth went to a place where Doctor Who can never go because it had a child die. It had several child users experiments. Ooh, fabulous.
But the other thing that I think is interesting about it, you're right, JT. To me, Torchwood was never an adult version of Doctor Who. You look at things like the Cyberwoman episode, and it was it was schoolboy humour in effect.
Thanks for reminding me of that one, Si. I'd forgotten about
that. you would never want your child, I don't think, to watch the series of Torchwood, whereas Children of Earth, if they were a bit more grown up and they were able to cope with the scariness of it, I wouldn't mind a child watching that because it wasn't inane, it wasn't drivel, it wasn't sexual. The first episode of Torchwood, and it was a sex spread.
It's a virus.
Oh, come on, boys, grow up.
We don't want to make anybody sick before their tea. What else you got in the diary?
Okay, right. On Thursday, it'll be 15 years since Doomsday in 2006. Doomsday, when we said goodbye to Rose, or at least it was the last time we saw Rose until she turned up a couple of years later with funny teeth and had forgotten how to speak properly. But this was, in effect, the last time we saw Rose.
Ruthless he is.
Sorry. So yeah, Doomsday. This was a cracking episode, I thought.
Yeah, this had the entire nation. Certainly, all of the UK was talking about this. God, blimey, I think there was a World Cup that year, and I know that people were literally running from their screens, like watching Doctor Who, and then running to the pub to watch the football. And it was one of the I don't think I've watched a football match since, but I was there with all my friends. And yeah, a lot of them were talking about how brilliant that finale was, how affected everybody was by it. My God, yeah, it was a pivotal day in Doctor Who history for certain.
I think the stuff that didn't work for me in Doomsday. I'm right, aren't I? I'm not misremembering here. It's the Cybermen against the Daleks, isn't it?
That's right.
Yes.
So that's the stuff that doesn't really work. It's a little bit fan fiction-y to me.
Absolutely, yeah.
For want of a less polite word.
I thought it was great.
So I don't like that, and I don't like the ending when all of that. There's billions and billions of Daleks streaming around, flying all over London. It's just too fanny for me. But you're right, Dan. The ending is phenomenal. If nothing else, the finale with Rose is fantastic. And
I liked it. I thought it was really good. I really wanted to see the Daleks versus the Cybermen, but they didn't do it in a very. They didn't do it in a very. There was so many possibilities, the Daleks versus the Cybermen, but they just kind of glossed over it a bit, you know.
There still is. Things can be done. You know, you can have the big space wars if the show ever comes back properly.
It was good. I really enjoyed it. Personally, I really enjoyed it. The effects, if you look at it now, the effects are terrible.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It was seeing those Daleks, little tiny Daleks, whizzing everywhere.
But the ending was a bit, you know, it was good because you basically took the journey with Tennant's Doctor and obviously Billy Piper, and when that ending happened, you can't not feel affected by it.
No,
I can.
I knew you could.
I don't know what other people think, but I can still remember when Billy Piper was cast.
Sorry,
when Billy Piper was announced as being cast, my first thought was, why did they do that?
Yeah, you've said that before, haven't you? Yeah.
Oh, but Billy
was all right.
She's phenomenal, and Rose,
It's
good.
phenomenal. I love that character, and I love her performance. I just wouldn't have brought her back in the 50th anniversary as the moment or whatever she was.
Do you know what, Simon? I think the two. I agree with you. The casting was really good because obviously they wanted her to be a working class person in that, and the other casting, and they spoilt her completely, was Bill. When I saw the casting for Bill, I thought, yeah, that works. Peter Capaldi and Bill, they kind of work together.
Yes.
If you look at them physically, they work together, and then they spoilt that rotten with all that stupid feminist rubbish in there. And
agreed. Whereas the difference for me with Rose's character is she stays pure. She's just a damned good character that you want to spend time with, that you're rooting for, and Billy plays it magnificently, every beat of that character.
But do you know what, Simon? I thought that she got screwed at the ending because she got the second sort of like carbon copy Doctor. Do you know what I mean? Remember that episode?
You're right.
I think we'll have to pick up this conversation another time and move on. There's so many memories with that episode.
Birthdays. Okay, today we have to wish a very, very happy 73rd birthday to Matt Irvin. Now,
is he still alive?
A legend.
Oh, he's still alive.
Absolute legend.
Yeah, he's still alive.
He's still kicking around. As far as I know, he still owns K9, the original prop.
And Aurak, everybody, all the Blake 7 fans, he's working. In
Yes.
fact, I think he's got Aurak on his workbench at the moment, bringing him back to life.
Wow.
I'd love to interview him.
To me, he's a legend because we saw the name so many times on end credits, but of course we saw the man himself so many times on Swap Shop and Saturday Superstore. Because
that's where I remember him from. All those shows, Tomorrow's World, things like that.
Yeah,
he must have had one hell of a suitcase to get all these BBC-owned props out of the stores.
He had a great personality.
Was he not responsible for the visual effects? On Doctor Who and Blake 7.
He was part of the team. It wasn't for small Matt.
There was a team of around 7 or 8 of them, I believe. Yeah. But Matt was very much, he was the one, because I think in the 70s when he was a young man, he was probably seen as quite pretty, quite trendy. He had the right clothes and things like that, and he was good on TV. He had that kind of Magnus Pike quality about him, a great British eccentric, but one who knew how to speak to kids in particularly well. He had a Johnny Bohr quality. And
yes, he did. You're right.
Things were in the mix. I mean, I could listen to this guy talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And I couldn't believe when I found out he wasn't a presenter himself. Yeah, he was great on TV and he's great with the fans. I think he's still at conventions quite regularly when he's not working away on various.
I was lucky enough to meet him at the 50th anniversary convention at Excel, and he was there with the original Warriors Gate model and the little privateer model and the TARDIS from Warriors Gate, and I got to meet him and just thank him because
he's still dragging the privateer around after 30 years. I saw him with that in like 1991, something like that. Good. It's good to know that some things never change, Matt.
He's a gent, and he's a lovely bloke. So we salute Matt Irving. He is an absolute hero. One hero to another, because tomorrow, John Pertwee, bless him,
the mighty Pertwee,
it would have been his birthday tomorrow. I think
how old would he have been?
One or something ridiculous. Because it's 25 years as well since we lost the great man himself. Hey, come on, JP. I know there's a lot of love out there for John Pertwee, especially from you, Ian.
Yeah. No, I love John Pertwee. John Pertwee is one of my favorite doctors of all time. So I wish he was still alive today, tell you the truth.
Wouldn't he be fantastic? Can you imagine him on commentaries, on Blu-ray commentaries?
It'd be amazing.
I can imagine some of the things he would say about Doctor Who today, so maybe it's good that he's not.
This picture that we're looking at now,
nothing.
This picture that we're looking at now was around a year before he died in the mid-90s. It's nice to see. It's nice to see the actors in their later life, the ones who are no longer with us. Because look at him there. He just looks really, really happy. Of course, he was making a few quid. He was signing copies of the 70s there, which is a fantastic book in itself. But I think it's a really nice picture of his, our white-haired.
And I think the thing that is nice with John Pertwee is that he never, ever lets the series go. He never walked. So, for example, Tom Baker, no criticism of Tom Baker at all, but after he left the show, he really distanced himself from it for a while to save his own career. Totally fair enough. Whereas John Pertwee never distanced himself. Every time he turned to a convention, he always turned up in costume. I don't think he ever turns up at a convention not in his
underdressed, no
Doctor costume. He really loved that show. He embraced the show, and it would have been his birthday tomorrow, and not a day goes by.
How would have been, Simon?
Well, I don't know. I think he would have been literally about 101 or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, he was born in 1919, John Pertwee, so 102.
Wow.
Okay, so hold on. 2021 minus 1919, he would have been 102. 102 tomorrow. Bless him. What a hero.
Still missed.
And also today actually marks the passing of Malcolm Hulke, who died in 1979, just 54, bless him. And he died, as I say, on this day, 1979. Malcolm Hulke, I rate this guy so much. He wrote, for those that don't know, he wrote The Faceless Ones, The War Games, The Silurians. He ghost wrote Ambassadors of Death. He also wrote Colony in Space, The Sea Devils, Frontier in Space, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. He also wrote the industry Bible called Writing for Television in the 1970s. which was used widely throughout the television industry as a guidebook on how to write for television. So this was a really influential guy.
Heavyweight.
Real heavyweight. He wrote the original The Making of Doctor Who book. I think he did that on his own. I don't think that was even with Terence Dix.
No, you're right. Yeah. Terence sort of supervised and added the odd bit, but it was all down to Hulk. And then, of course, when the reprint, it was the other way around.
That's right, and so Malcolm Hulke brought an enormous amount of what is now established lore to the show with that book, with The Making of Doctor Who, that we're still using to this day. He also wrote extensively for other shows, Pathfinders in Space, The Avengers, Danger Man, even Crossroads. He wrote for Crossroads. This was a prolific guy.
Absolutely.
And also, what's quite interesting about Malcolm Hulke, I think, in all his Doctor Who work, you can see his political leanings. He was something of a communist, basically, and by his own admission. This was cool. He was fine with this. And you can see his political tendencies coming through in a lot of his writing, particularly things like Colony in Space, the Silurians, Frontier in Space, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. He wore his heart on his sleeve. And he wrote lots of Target books. Here's my favourites.
Oh, classic! That's one of the great. If you're going to start with a Target book, you start with the cave monsters, because
isn't it? I mean,
it is brilliant. This is quite sad actually to realise this, because you know when people say to you, "Who would you want to meet?" Malcolm Hulke is the one I would have wanted to have met, because I have so many questions for him. Just through reading his work and watching his television shows and I have and some politics, but I've got so many questions I would like to ask him now as an adult. Yeah, he went too soon for all of us.
He did go too soon. You're right, JT. He's one of those really interesting characters, and because he went so soon in 1979, before the show was beginning to be documented, there's so little interview material out there with him.
Exactly.
So little of his.
I mean, that's the year that the Weekly arrived, so we never got him in the Doctor Who magazine properly as a one-to-one interview. I mean, it's heartbreaking in a sense. You know, it was so important to what we know as Doctor Who today, and none of us got to meet him.
And also, he was so pivotal to. We just talked about John Pertwee. He was so pivotal to those Pertwee years. The Silurians, Ambassadors of Death, Colony in Space, the Sea Devils, Frontier in Space, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. These were heavyweight stories in the Pertwee canon. And so he really is one of the key players for me in the Pertwee years.
Yeah,
absolute
good
legend.
Stuff.
So we've these have all been legends this week. This is all about legends. Very, very finally, a little bit more quirky. On Friday, it'll celebrate 17 years since the radio drama Whatever Happened to Susan Foreman, which came out.
It's not, is it? Oh, God. Why do I always feel old in this segment?
If anybody out there has not heard this, it's definitely on one of the DVDs somewhere. It's the most bizarre thing you will ever hear, and it's not very good. If I'm brutally honest.
Ian, we were starved of Doctor Who in the 90s, and this is how bad it got. I think this is, I'm no disrespect to the people who wrote and produced this, and certainly not to Jane Asher, who starred in it as Susan Foreman. It's competent enough, but my God, it's meager, isn't it?
It's like rubbish. It's total rubbish. I remember sitting there listening to it live thinking, I could be doing... is this still on?
The first thing that springs to mind is, why would you cast Jane Asher as Susan Foreman when you've still got Carol Ann Ford who would have done it?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming...
I did know the answer to this. I did know the answer to this back in the 90s, because it was produced completely. It was part of a series which and there was about 5 or 6 of them, and each of them were about children's fictional characters, but updated. So there was Christopher Robin, for example, from the Winnie the Pooh books, and things like that. Mm-hmm. They were all conceived together by a production team that was sort of completely detached from everything else. It was Radio 4, wasn't it? And they just didn't really do their research. I think they may have even assumed that Carol Ann Ford was no longer with us. Never even thought to ask her. They were thinking more of the fictional character. And of course, and Sir Ian mentioned, Jane Asher she's not what you call A-list, but she's a well-loved
at the time,
actress. Somebody synonymous with the 60s. Here we are looking at a just beautiful picture of her from around the time she was in Alfie in the mid-60s with Michael Caine. She's a good actress too. And so I personally think she brought the character to life. She didn't sound like Susan. It was a very different kind of characterization. I'd be surprised if she'd ever seen the character on screen. But I don't think she did a bad job. And she did have that kind of, again, she's got that quality that Carol Ann Ford had got, I think, in the 60s, certainly.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you kind of wonder if Carol Ann Ford had actually read the script, whether she would have
turned it down.
Anyway, simply because it doesn't really.
There's that too.
It doesn't do the character any favors. It's very much its tongue is firmly in its cheek. I think we can at least say that. It's definitely one of the quirkiest things to ever come out of Doctor Who, and the fact that it went on BBC Radio 4, you kind of think, what?
Yeah, but so did Slipback.
Richard Brooks asks here in the chat, watching on YouTube, is it on one of the DVDs? It is on one of the DVDs.
It is on one, yeah.
It is,
I think it's probably on the Dalek Invasion of Earth, I'm guessing. As a rough guess, I would imagine.
I'd say listen to it in the bath, maybe, but you may.
No, don't. You might drown.
That wouldn't be a good idea. No.
Fall asleep. No, don't do that. Don't do that. And it's probably going to turn up on one of the box sets as well, isn't it? Seeing as everything on the DVD contents turns up on the season box sets. But listen, don't rush out to go and. No. It's probably on YouTube as well. But don't waste your time. Honestly, it's a pile of poo.
You will be disappointed.
Say what you think. Say what you think. Yes, well, that's something for everyone there.
Next question.
This time. So yeah, let's move on. Let's close the diary and move on.
Please give us a.
I couldn't. Got the trigger finger there. Got the trigger finger. Oh,
give us a question. Like someone phone in.
Well, before we get there, we don't want to rush to. Yeah, we have got lots more questions coming up. People have sent in questions as well, anonymously via our Type 40 suggestion box. So we've got those coming up too. I know we've got a few names this time in that. So that's quite. Yeah, that's going to be quite interesting. That's coming up. But before we get to all that, we're going to go into our Type 40 T or P break. You'll be pleased to learn now. Before we get into that, though, and see all of the delights in store, I wanted to just talk a little bit about this because, BBC Studios has announced that another one of those animated Doctor Who stories is on the way. Evil of the Daleks. It's out on the 27th of September, 2021. All animated and all, as the rabbi was saying when he popped into the chat, in black and white or colour. You get a choice on this release, and you can either have it on Blu-ray or DVD or in a steelbook, as is traditional. So this is the 7-part story from 1967. Victoria's first story. You know the drill. Lots and lots of Daleks. It's a big 3-disc release, and there's the remastered surviving single episode. That's on there too, along with telesnap reconstructions and a couple of new features and things. So there really is a nice selection of stuff in there, and we'll be reviewing it at a later date, or I certainly will with anybody else who's interested. Now, that accepted. I think it's about the 5th release in that series. So that accepted. That's probably... We may have hovered over pre-order on that already. Since as Evil of the Daleks is back in the news, I wanted to ask you, people watching out there, yes, so Evil of the Daleks is on the way. That was the Daleks back after a year, 18 months, which in the 60s seemed like an eternity for Dalek fans to wait. But another Doctor Who monster reappeared in Evil of the Daleks. It didn't just feature a Dalek. What other Doctor Who monster made its reappearance in Evil of the Daleks back in 1967? So you have to think about that in the chat. Yeah, no answers yet. We have a look at that in the chat. See if you can come up with anything. And we're going to go for the break, and I'll let you know the answer when we return.
Who used to sing, pick up the phone and give us a ring. La. Ask permission, dial carefully. Now watch the show.
And now the shipping forecast at 2000 hours GMT. North Tyne Dogger, easterly 5 or 6, increasing locally 7, becoming Vera. White Humber Thames. Southeast, veering west, 5, occasionally 6, slight drizzle, 7 miles. Visibility improved.
Give a little more. with a Phillips gift.
Huge obstruction on the bridge, boss. Could be here for hours.
What do you mean there's an...
What's up, Doc? Good morning. I see you've got a new mobile telephone. It's Telecom. Oh, that's good. Do you mind? My telephone box is out of order. Hello, Telecom.
Vandals, I suppose.
This is the doctor. Yes, we've got a bit of a problem. Yeah, call me when you're on your way, will you?
Doctor Who?
That's right. Maybe it's off the hook. No, I've got it!
Thank you, sir. Oh, thank you very much. Most enjoyable. That's no problem at all, but... I've lost my wallet. Morning Fresh.
That'll do nicely.
The super concentrated formula of Morning Fresh simply cuts through grease. It freshens your kitchen and lasts a long, long time.
What's all this?
Service charge.
Super concentrated Morning Fresh. Don't wash up without it.
Morning,
Hello.
Fresh.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Type 40 Live on the Spacebook with this bunch of reprobates here, my friends and companions, talking Doctor Who. And just before we went into the break, we were talking, weren't we, about Evil of the Daleks there and this new animated one that's coming, and the fact that, yes, in Evil of the Daleks, we've got obviously lots and lots of Daleks, as is their wont. But I wondered if you can tell me, anybody, which other Doctor Who creature reappeared in Evil of the Daleks? Have we got an answer? Anybody? We have got some answers here, and somebody's got it too. Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
That's okay, what I would have gone forward a bit.
The Slither. No, but we do have a winner here, because yes, as Action by Havoc had guessed, we do get a Chumbly reappear in this story. So yes, this is. Yeah, so I finally found out this a couple of weeks ago. This is a picture of the top of the Emperor Dalek there. So after all these years, it's been revealed recently that a Chumbly formed part of the top of the Emperor himself there.
I never knew that.
That's brilliant.
Technically, you could say a Chumbly did appear in Evil of the Daleks.
That's incredible. Honestly, after all these years, you kind of think you know everything there is to know about Doctor Who, and then a little fact like that comes along and knocks you off your feet. Incredible.
It is sort of, it's grasping at straws, though, isn't it? That one? But that's great. I never knew that either. That's really interesting.
Brilliant.
Where's that? Yeah. Oh, Lit Rondels. Oh, okay.
That's
this is from
knockout.
This is from Lit Rondels. Yes, on over on Twitter. And
do you know?
Go on,
sorry, Dan, go on.
Well, obviously, this is quite a revelation to me. I haven't got the encyclopedic knowledge that some have, but yeah, when you see it from that angle, and that's I mean, we're used to seeing the Dalek Emperor from '67 like that, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and it's amazing, really, because considering that none of us have seen the actual episodes for this long, and most of us will know everything from the book or from the soundtracks.
Yeah.
You know, actually, I've got that one. Ta-da!
Oh, yeah.
You know, to come up with some piece of information like that it's a bit novel, isn't it? Really, because none of us know.
Absolutely. And I want to know where they've got that photo from. Why have we never ever seen a photo of Butt looking down on the Emperor Dalek before?
That's recycling at its best.
That's the reason why you never saw looking down at a Dalek. Then you would have guessed that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a recently unearthed picture, I believe, of the entire studio layout.
Wow.
So it's the entire studio floor, as was put together, the entire set, but it's very, very high resolution, and they were able to go right in, Ian.
Wow.
And with pinpoint accuracy, and clock that, identify the reuse of the Chumbly prop there, as guessed by Action by Havoc guessed this in the chat.
Very clever.
So fair play. Yeah, they're all over that. How cool, says Richard Brooks. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, obviously Galaxy 4. We can't actually see Galaxy 4. We can't experience the wonder of the Chumblies doing their thing as was intended, but we do at least get to enjoy pictures of them. One of the cutest Doctor Who robots, I think, over the years. One of many.
Well,
But yeah, that did
the animation will be out shortly, so we'll get to see it then.
I believe that the animation of Galaxy 4 is due next year. That's the word we get. We're going to get the first full Hartnell animation, but we'll see. Richard Brooks says he's reading Galaxy 4 right now.
Oh,
and,
right, okay.
Yeah, then is the yellow canon? I don't know.
What's that mean?
I have no. I think he talks
What's
about.
What's that mean? Action by Havoc.
I think he's talking about the color of the Chumbly because Action by Havoc is actually Who color. It's the same person as they just revealed that in the chat earlier on. And your most recent work has been of a Chumbly, hasn't it? Which I think he has done in yellow. But yeah, you can always sort of go back.
I don't know what color the Chumblies are. Are there photos of the Chumblies? I'm not certain.
It's in the book. Who was reading the Galaxy 4 book?
William Ems.
That's Richard Brooks.
Richard, when you get to that bit of the description, let us know because I'm sure they're described and I'm sure the colours mentioned. But it's a long time since I've read the Galaxy 4 book, a long time ago, so I might be wrong. I'm sure it's in there.
But yeah, but is that going to be an accurate? I mean, it was William Ems wrote the book, but is he definitely describing the prop as it was? What colour were the props? I don't know.
Well, if he's described it, it's law.
Yeah, well, he did write
exactly. It was from his head.
Okay. We have some more questions here coming.
Dan, before we go for a question, can I just say at 12 minutes past 5, hello Cam, taking a break and watching the Spacebook, one of the best streams, great bunch of guys. Yay! We like you, Cam. Thank you.
You can come back. It's right to the top of the Christmas card list there. Cheers.
He is on the Christmas card list. Bless him.
Strawbridge says, "Gotta love Doctor Who fans. Give us any weird bit of knowledge, and it will be identified and processed. It will indeed. Yeah,
definitely, absolutely.
Chumblies are yellow.
Do you know, Chumbly was one of the words I remember saying when I was a kid because it was in one of the monster books or something like that when I was little, and I used to run around going Chumbly, and point at chutney.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, let's get stuck into some more questions, everybody, because people have been good enough to send these in. Let's have a look and see what we've got first. We have, this one comes from Randall Miles Smith.
Hi, Randall.
It relates to a story I think that we're all very fond of to some degree or another.
Yes.
So this is Randall's question. In Pyramids of Mars, Part 1, specifically, Part 1 of that classic story, they ask, the servant of Sutek comes down and says, bring Sutek's gift of death. But what do you reckon he is? He changes form in Part 2 to a possessed form of Marcus Scarman. So they're asking, who do we think that character is?
I never even thought about this question before, but my take on it is immediately, surely it is Marcus Scarman in a natty little travelling outfit that he puts on whenever he's whipping along down a time tunnel that then disappears. So I've always seen that particular character as Marcus Scarman. Isn't that brilliant?
That's one of my favourite pictures of Doctor Who ever. I mean, wow.
I agree, Simon. Same
Stunning.
here.
So I would say Marcus Scarman would be my answer. Yeah. Ian, JT.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That's
totally
agree.
I always thought it was along those same lines. I just thought it was the essence in Marcus's body. But now, actually, I haven't had that question answered. You could actually say that's, it's an interesting question, though. Because you could just say that's the agent or the form that's sent through and it transmorphs into the image of Scarman later on. But, good question.
Because it's a difficult one because the mask doesn't come off and it's Marcus Scarman underneath. He turns into Marcus Scarman. So it's a tricky one.
It could be a projection from Sutek, the all-powerful. But
that picture's a bit rude, isn't it?
I'm definitely going to be Marcus Scarman.
No,
it would be for you dirty-minded boy.
Disclaimer.
A bit rude.
Leave it out.
Kick him out.
Very bad.
I remember the term chumbly wombly, says Cam, but not from
it's a
where
song.
Or when.
Yeah, it's a song. Chumbly Wumbly. It's in a song. Not Walk the Dinosaur. You've got me off.
I get knocked down.
Are we talking about the 1970s?
Chumbawamba from the 90s. That's why I don't really remember it.
Yeah, I get it.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. Woo!
There we go.
That's the
Got
one.
JT
That's the
going.
one.
I'm off.
Okay, next. He's back on the circuit. Crimpling Doubloon. This is another one from Crimpling Doubloon. Says, if Doctor Who is cancelled and then some years later is once again revived, everybody, what do we call its initial run? Since season 1 and series 1 have already been taken. So let's just clarify what Crimpling is asking is if Doctor Who goes away again, we get some more wilderness years, then it comes back again. What on earth do we call it? Because seasons and series are all taken. What would you go with, Ian?
I'll just call it. I'll just call it the non-Jodie years. That's what I call it.
Post,
as I call it. You know.
Well, I describe the 3 phases of Doctor Who. We've got Classic Who, which is 1963 to 1996. I include pause. So 63 to 96, Classic Who. We've got New Who, which is 2005 to 2017, and we've got Not Who, which is 2018 to present day. So we could extrapolate something from that, I believe.
Corrected Who. That's what you should call it. Corrected Who.
This is a difficult one because season and series are both taken. Do we go with run number 1, or drop? Maybe because when it comes back again. But when it comes back again, it will almost certainly drop all in one, Netflix style. So maybe it will drop one. Well, hey, I dropped one before I came on stream.
Well, it would be even worse if it was drop 4.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, I suspect that what they would do is they would just pick up where they left off. So what are we on at the moment? Series 13? So I guess it would be Series 14. I suppose it would be Series 14, I would imagine. But it's a good question.
This whole thing comes down to the branding, and and Russell made this very aware of that they were actually going to call. Should we call it Series 26? Should we call it Season 26? Should we call it Series 1? Should we call it? It's just down to branding, and it is a bit nonsense, really, because who cares? I don't like. What you just brand it as is Doctor Who Season 1. That's what I would do, and just because, especially if you're going to come in and we don't know what might happen, you might retcon this entire era, because I would. We all know that. I would retcon the entire Chibnall era.
But they won't do that.
But they might just forget it. You just don't know. We don't know. They might, because it's been so unprofitable.
We have a question coming up, which is sort of extension.
I would have said it'd probably depend on how long the show's away for. If it takes a break of like 5 or more years, you can't call it Series 14.
No, you wouldn't. And why would you want to? If you're a new producer coming in, why would you want to continue?
Before we move on, I think that I should remind everybody that back in 2010, for about 6 months, during pre-publicity for Stephen Moffat's stint as showrunner, he was insisting. Stephen Moffat and who was it that was Piers Morgan and there was another producer.
Piers Wenger.
The 3 of them, they were insisting that with the dawn of the Matt Smith era, that it was going to be Series 1 again.
Yeah.
So it was going to technically be another fresh start. And obviously that didn't go down well with the fan base or with merchandise promoters. But Moffat's reasoning behind that was that it was starting to sound like an old show because it was Series 5 makes it sound like an aging brand, which I always thought that was largely, I think that's woolly thinking, really. But he didn't stick with it. But I think that probably would be what would happen again. I think season is a very expressly American term. I can't see that ever being used in regard to Doctor Who again.
Well, it is, isn't it? On the Blu-rays, it is. It says season 10. I mean, I used to know it as season.
But seasons were the classic.
They were called seasons.
Series is the new
show. Series is, but I think it would. I think it would just be number 1 again. I think it would start
almost certainly. Let's go for another question. Hi everyone. I would love to hear the best and the worst of your collective encounters with any of the Doctors. JT's going to plead the 5th, but he says, Java Bean says, love the show, kind regards. So yes, that's just to clarify, that's your best and worst collective encounters with any Doctors. Ian, you've got a belter, haven't you, that took place in the
I met Peter Davison a long time ago when I was working in post-production. I was working on, I can't remember what show I was, and he was waiting for Sean. I can't remember the guy at the co-star. He was doing was it the detective show on ITV?
Yes,
What's that show called?
Champion.
The Last
No,
Detective.
the Last Detective. He was doing The Last Detective, and he's waiting for Sean Hughes in the pub. And he was in post production with something I can't remember. And I went across the road for a beer, and he was just sitting on his own. And I asked him if he wanted a beer, and he said yes. And then I sat down and I started talking to him for, I guess it was an hour or so.
Wow. Really
nice guy, terrific guy. He didn't. When I mentioned Doctor Who, he didn't roll his eyes and go, "Oh, not that again." He didn't do any of that stuff. He was so grateful that he was in Doctor Who. He was a very nice guy. He even brought me a beer. And we talked about how it was in Doctor Who, how at the time and stuff like that, and how sad he was that he wasn't doing it anymore. Blah 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 blah. Fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about that man.
You might not remember, Ian, but for years after Peter Davison, I mean, after a gap anyway, I should say, after a gap, he used to tell a lot of people in interviews that he always felt that he should play the part sort of now in contemporary times, and that he would in his later, as he got into middle age, he felt that he had a better idea about what he would do with the part then.
Yes.
And so I can actually imagine him saying that to me.
I remember him saying that he left too soon. He said that somebody convinced him to leave or something like that.
Troughton.
Was it? All right. Yeah. He was convinced to leave, and he decided to leave because obviously he wanted to carry on. He didn't want to be typecast, but he said that he was just getting the hang of being the Doctor when he was leaving, and he thought he shouldn't have. But then again, that's life, isn't it? So it was. I tell you one thing, man. The guy's a nice guy as far as I'm concerned, and I would have nothing bad said about him at all. That's why I was annoyed when they tried to cancel him on Twitter, because he spoke his mind. Do you know what I mean? So, but anyway,
about 3 or 4 years ago, they came after him in a pretty unforgivable way. Didn't they?
It is unforgivable. It is.
How about you, Simon? You must have met plenty of doctors.
Yeah. Met quite a few of them. Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee, Tom Baker, Peter Davison.
Wow.
I met Peter Davison. We've talked about this in the past. I won't go into it a great deal, but I met him before he'd even been cast as the Doctor, when I was about this big, and he laughed at me.
And you still are.
In fact, that story is in full on the next episode of Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast. Which
there you go.
All your podcasters in a couple of days, so don't miss that.
My worst encounter.
See what they did there? See what they did?
My worst encounter with the Doctor was Colin Baker. Lovely chap, don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with Colin Baker. It was back in the days of the Lunatics in the late 80s when we had the local group, and we all went off to the Birmingham Alex Theatre to watch Colin Baker in Death Trap, as I recall. So we'd arranged, I'd organised that we were going to meet him afterwards. So the group was there. There's probably about 15 or 20 of us, and we all got to meet Colin Baker in the auditorium afterwards. And he came out and he signed autographs, and he was lovely. He was a really nice chap. And I should have just did a very brief sort of chat with him before, for the benefit of the whole group. We did a sort of quick Q&A, and I made a terrible faux pas because I criticised his American accent in the play. He had to do this American accent in the play, which he kept dropping occasionally, and I happened to notice that I noticed him drop his American accent every so often in the play. I know, and you're like, it's one of those moments when you just wish the earth to open up and just swallow you whole. And he wasn't chuffed. That's all I'll say. He wasn't chuffed. He called me something beginning with B, and I'll leave it to your imagination what he called me.
It's just like telling the mother that she's got an ugly child. You know what I mean? You should never do that to an actor, ever.
I know. I get that. It's one of those things. To tell you what it is, it's one of those things when you meet somebody who you admire a lot and is a hero, and of course you go into overdrive, don't you? You either clam up and can't say anything, or you say far too much. And I'm one of those people. If you hadn't worked it out by now, I say far too much.
But mind you, though, I mean, it was very rude of him to actually call you that, because you should be grateful that he should have been grateful that you're a fan, and he should have said, thanks for the criticism, but I did my best. That's all he should have said, really, instead of calling you a name.
To be fair to Colin, if you're watching this, don't worry. He wasn't being rude. When he called me a B, he wasn't being rude. It was definitely tongue in cheek. It was
that's no bad.
That's nice.
It was fine. It was.
I've seen him do that in interviews, sort of mockingly take offence.
That's what he was doing. So it was all fine. But I did
good.
want the grounds to open up and eat me, and I've never forgotten it. And I've got a photo, actually. There's a photo taken of me standing with him just at the moment I'm saying it. And I'm just like,
I'd love to meet Colin. I'd love to meet Colin. He was doing a signing at the Manda Centre in Wolverhampton not that long before the pandemic, and I just missed it. I mean, my friend David Southwell, I think he'd seen him or seen a poster, and I couldn't get over there. I'd love to meet Colin. I've been in the same room as Tom Baker and Peter Davison on different occasions. The Tom Baker thing wasn't a Doctor Who related thing. It wasn't a geeky related thing. He was just there, and I wasn't in a situation where I could speak to him because I was talking to other people. But the fact that I was in the presence of Tom Baker, that wasn't lost on me. Let's put it that way. You guys know, he's absolutely magnetic, and he's very tall. I mean, because he was, back then. I mean, this would have been it was before the new series, so this would have been the early 2000s. So he's, very, very tall man, physically large man. He really stood out. Peter Davison was at an event, a very large event, and he was sort of sat down. I think he was having a fag. And I think, because he was there. He was there on a signing. He was having a cigarette and a cup of coffee. Had one of those plastic things. He was just sat there chatting away. And I thought, shall I go and speak to him?
Did you?
Because he wasn't actually signing at the time. But no, I didn't. I was with my children, I think. Or it was my girlfriend. I was with somebody else. And I did think, because he was clearly taking his lunch or something, and I thought, well, because I knew that Peter was there, and I was tempted to go and get an autograph or whatever, but I didn't in the end. And I haven't. Have I met him? I don't think I've been around any of the others. No. Not. I mean, I've Paul McGann through a Zoom thing, but that's not the same, is it? It's not the same. Really count. Go on, JT. We've had a build up. You can't pick. You don't have to answer this, but do you want to give us a doctor memory?
Well,
okay. Moving on. we'll move on.
No. I mean, all the actors I've met have been great. Have been very approachable and very nice. Everybody has their off days.
Layla Ward. Yeah. That's all I can say.
And that's that.
Layla Ward. That's all I can say. Layla Ward.
I think that is a healthy way of looking at the whole thing. Is that everybody does have their off days, and they meet a lot of us, the collective Doctor Who fan base. Somebody like Colin Baker, who's been at the coalface now for decades, hasn't really had much time away from the show or us. I imagine we all.
And it's all around the world, and that's one of the perks of their job. They get flown around the world to do these things and what have you. But I mean, it is what it is.
Here's another one, everybody. Can we go back to 1971 when I enjoyed Doctor Who? Says Anonymous, and that came via the suggestion box.
Of course we can.
Of course. How can we get there, Ian? Would it involve some
by TARDIS?
Oh,
we can get there by TARDIS.
Listen, by Blu-ray.
Just get the box sets or the DVDs on and relive 1971. Exactly. It's absolutely fine. And how much good stuff would you have in front of you from 1971? You've got years full of good stuff.
Ride the Pertweed wave. That's what I say. The Pertweed wave. Ride that, mate. Tell you seriously, you won't regret it.
They can't take your childhood away, can they? They can't do that. Cam says here, watching on YouTube, the Spacebook. Thanks, Dan, Ian, JT, and Simon. Love you all together telling tales out of school. Be well and take it easy. Listening on earphones while I adventure through time and space. Well, let us know where you end up, Cam. We may be able to come and pick you up in this thing, but we can't promise anything. We'll do it.
Cam, stay safe out there.
Wise words, JT.
Thank you, Richard.
Richard Brooks there. And Alex Storer adds, Colin is always such a nice man. David Southall, here rubbing it in with me, said, I got a picture of Colin Baker at that still. We did it out. I think
we'll dig it out.
We'll dig it out. Yeah, he had a picture taken with Colin that afternoon. Good stuff, all good stuff. And Alex Storer says that I once bumped into Sylvester McCoy in Sheffield City Centre. He was in a play at the Lyceum at the time. It was nice to have a little chat with a little bloke about a little doctor. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Have his spoons on him.
Probably.
His spoons.
Probably.
Almost certainly. Let's take another question, everybody. Which is each panel member's favourite Doctor Who related book, fact, or fiction, and why?
Oh, yes.
Related book.
Ooh. Gosh, that's really difficult.
I haven't got many books on Doctor Who, but I mean, I used to read Looking a lot, and they used to have Doctor Who in that. I mean, that's the only thing I could say, really.
I've got millions and millions. I've got far too many Doctor Who books. I would say I've got a few. Very, very quickly, I would say the first Dalek, the first Target novelisation, Doctor Who: An Exciting Adventure with the Daleks, is just one of the best Doctor Who books you will ever read. And if you haven't read it yet, trust me, go and get that original Dalek book, the original Target book called The Daleks by David Whittaker. One of my other favourites is Celebration, the Peter Haining book from 1983. Very happy memories of that one. One of my other favourites is this one because it's just stunning. You can relive all your childhoods in this book. It's beautiful.
Right, Simon, can I just have a look at some of those pictures in there? Can you
can watch? You can go and watch the video on the Spacebook channel. You can see every picture.
That's beautiful.
You can see it
look at that.
Oh
my Lord.
Or on camera on Type 40 episode 80 here on the Spacebook channel.
Wow, that's great.
It's beautiful. This
fantastic book. And just to segue in from that, I think my favourite. So, what was the question exactly? My favourite Doctor Who related book, fact or fiction, and why. Leading on from that is a book called Time View, which is a similar kind of book. Yeah. And it was the collected illustrations of Frank Bellamy, who I know that Chris looked up to. Those line illustrations taken from the Radio Times from around 71, wasn't it, JT? That's when he started on the title, through to around 77, something like that, slightly into the Tom Baker era. It's quite a slim book, but I bought it when I was about 15. I had no idea this book existed. I found it by accident. And sometimes when you find things like that, those little things, those little nuggets, those little treats, you savour it even more, don't you, JT? Have you got a favourite book?
I love this question. Notice though we didn't have the name of the person that sent it in, but I have to say, what a refreshing question. This is a brilliant question. There are so many, of course. Obviously, I mentioned earlier the first one, the Web of Fear, and all I mean, there are books that hold something special too. So the Target books are special to all of us of a certain generation, and they still are today. Simon mentioned a couple there. You mentioned the Frank Bellamy one. I love the David J. Howe books of the 60s, 70s, and then the 80s. They are brilliant. I have to say, though, my favourite book, my favourite non-fiction book would have to be David's The Target storybook, the Target book, because it just evokes all those memories of the Target years, and all the covers are in there from all the books except the Blue Spine collection. So, yeah, I think David's done a great job on that book. So I would go. That's one I still go back to now with a cup of tea, and pick that one up. If I feel like I want to read something, I'll go and pick the Target book up from David and read that and look at the pictures and feel good. So I'm going to say that one.
And some hobnobs as well, innit? Tea and hobnobs.
Yeah.
A suggestive biscuit, maybe.
That's right.
Get the biscuits in. We've got people reminiscing here too about books. We've got Clack Clack is superlative, says Richard Brooks, and a story from Action by Havoc says, I once gave Colin a book and asked him if he wanted me to sign it to Colin or the Doctor. His face was a picture. It was hilarious. That's brilliant. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's cool. Oh god. Let's got a few more questions here. Let's pick one out. This one. Yep. Okay. Hello, distinguished panel.
Oh, hello.
No.
Hang on a minute. No, we're getting Radio Free Scaro's messages again. This keeps happening. But seeing as this has come, do you think that Doctor Who can be saved? Can the timeless child debacle be retconned? There are promising signs from Star Wars that this can be done. But can Doctor Who be saved?
Well, we've got several other episodes on this entire discussion. Go and watch the previous series.
Yeah, we have
loads of them.
but I mean, very, very quickly, I would say absolutely 100% it can be saved, and I'll guarantee now 100% it will be saved. It might take 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, but I can guarantee
be all dead when it's saved.
Doctor Who will be back on top, and all of this timeless child stuff will be completely forgotten. They won't try and retcon it. They will just ignore it, and they'll move on. They'll restart the same as they did with Rose, and it will be on top again. I guarantee.
Yeah, there are ways of doing it. There's 100 billion ways of actually destroying the Jodie era. I mean, there's Well, that's what
that's what I do. I just ignore it.
Yeah. Well, it's the DC. You know, the DC has different universes and stuff that could do it that way. They could, you know, they could make out that Jodie was from the different world. You know, when David Tennant went to that world with the flying blimps, could have made out that she was that from that world rather than the world that we know of. They could do thousands
There's
of
so
things
little
with it.
continuity,
Yeah.
and bear in mind that the only character to really turn up from the past has been Captain Jack, and he looks quite a lot different.
Yes,
Sorry,
he
John,
does.
but well, I love you,
He
John,
looks
but
old.
you do. I think you could retcon this very, very easily.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course you could.
I mean, you know, it is a debacle, and it has been disastrous. We have been over it and over it and over it. But with what we see now with intellectual properties is that they are strong. Doctor Who is a particularly robust one at its core, and yes, a certain individual is doing everything he can to damage it. Let's not forget, he's doing his level best to take it right the way down to rock bottom. But
well, he's done that. Well done, him.
Too many people, creatively and critically, to rock bottom.
But you know what I think?
Too many other people love this show, understand how it works and how to save it, don't they?
I think Doctor Who needs an upgrade. That's what I think. Ta-da!
That's what they did in 2017, wasn't it? That was the whole word.
It needs an uptick, a drastic uptick from this situation. And no, the recent Christmas special doesn't. New Year's Day special doesn't count. It was on New Year's Day, and it was still the lowest rated special ever. By the way, everybody. Obviously, Doctor Who will be back on screen sooner rather than later, and we shall see where that's all going to go. We have talked about the situation quite a lot. Obviously, as time goes on, it doesn't get any less painful to watch, and we know there are talented people out there waiting to come up, new young people who hate all this woke shit as much as we do, and will be ready to reinvent all our popular culture legends.
I'm actually hoping it may not be a young person, because they're all a lot of them are concerning. But you know, we've got to look at that. We know, in answer to what you're just saying, that we know where it's going. EastEnders is pulling in 2 million at the moment.
Yeah.
Now that used to get 26 to 30 million viewers, and it's now getting around about 2 million. The BBC is not in a healthy state. We all know that. So you can more or less guarantee what's going to happen with the alleged series called Doctor Who.
But they did go back on their license, because my mum got a letter recently.
Oh yeah,
it was saying that, because you know, the first letter that came through, it said that she had to pay the license because they changed the law. They changed all that. And now we got recently saying because she's over 85, she gets it free, and she claims now she gets it free. So they're kind of tracking back a bit. Do you know what I mean? They're kind of tracking back on that. So there you go. Maybe
don't trust them. Don't trust them.
Knows?
Oh yeah, Mega Extremers. Thank you. I agree with that.
Who knows?
I can see somebody's asking who was asking a minute ago. Digby Strawbridge, where is there somewhere we can buy this lovely book? I'm guessing you may be talking about Clack, because that's what I think Richard Brooks was mentioning as well. Yes, you can on the Candy Jar website, or stay tuned and you might be able to win a copy any minute now.
Yes, and we have got, yet again, Type 40, episode 80. Our podcast came out as a video too this time, and there's a whole video where Simon and I talk about it. We review it. We talk about Chris Achilleos and all his work, how much we love him again. But you can see us go through the book, and if you look in the description of that video, you will find a link to Candy Jar. There's various options there. It takes you right there, and you can go, and pull the trigger and treat yourself is my advice. Let's take another question.
And tell them we sent you.
Yes. Yes, definitely do that. Yeah. Yes. Could the panel? This is another question. Anonymous question. Could the panel give some guidance over the meaning of the phrases "the catharsis of spurious morality" and "megabyte modem"? Simon, you really want to take this one?
Take it, Simon, because I have no idea.
I really want to take this one because I can remember this from 1986. I remember the controversy over that one statement, the catharsis of spurious morality. Nothing.
So, just for Ian, who's looking a bit bewildered, which story is that from?
So basically, to fill anybody in that doesn't know, it's from the very last episode of The Trial of a Time Lord, and it's the Valiard, I think, that says nothing can stop the catharsis of spurious morality. And it was rolling around fandom for months. What does it actually mean? And I hadn't got a clue what it meant at the time, and I've thought about it a lot. Now, Pip and Jane Baker wrote this, and Pip and Jane Baker are famous for their flowery language and using 27 words when one would have done. And normally those words are completely you haven't got a clue what they're talking about. They're nonsensical words that are in some arcane dictionary from 300 years ago. So the catharsis of spurious morality, I've thought about this, and actually when you think about it, it does make sense, because catharsis is something clearing out of the system. Spurious morality, what they're talking about is the way the Time Lords have fallen into moral decay. And so we're talking about the hold on, I'm losing myself in my own argument now. I know I had this one.
No, carry on. Carry on.
The Valeyard is saying nothing can stop the spurious, the decadent decay that the Time Lords have fallen into being kicked out and reshaped into I'm giving up at that point. I mean, I've lost it.
I agree, and I remember this coming back through as well. It was basically the Valeyard kicking the arse up over the bureaucracy and the day-to-day ritual of the Time Lord and the Gallifrey life, and basically that's what it was about. But Pip and Jane, as Simon said, they had a beautiful way with proper English language, and they once, I'm going to name drop here, but Jane Baker once said to me the reason that they used all this was to make young people go and pick up a dictionary and learn about words, because they were concerned where the English language was going. And where you look at where it is now, she was absolutely right.
She was right.
And I did go and look up those words, and I'm glad you said that, JT. I was going to stand up for them too. I think they're delightful writers for the most part. I like that they use that language. For me, a megabyte modem just means a bloody big modem. I don't know what else.
So they're basically just saying that the Time Lords is never going to change.
They were saying that the Valeyard was putting a rocket under their arse.
Correct. The Valeyard was fed up that the Time Lords had fallen into this decaying, decadent, bureaucratic society.
Yeah, because they're in that mode. They were never going to change. They were still going to be.
Thank you. Problem being,
the megabyte modem is a different part of the of the speech, and that's given by Mel, because Mel was a computer programmer, and so she was supposed to be. They wanted to give Mel this intelligence. They wanted her to be an intelligent character. So when she opens up this door in Trial of the Time Lord and she sees this thing, she's supposed to be an intelligent enough person to go, I know what this is a form of because I'm a computer programmer.
Which would work if it wasn't for the fact that she opens up the cupboard and there's just this wooden box in there with a few flashing lights and levers on it, and she somehow miraculously knows it's a megabyte modem.
I know, but I love the way that Pip and Jane tried to look after Mel. You know, because we all know the situation about how Mel was introduced. It was hindsight's a wonderful thing.
I thought they wrote her beautifully. I really did.
Yeah, they wanted her to be where we eventually got to with Ace, you know, and oh, bless them.
It was poor. It was poor. In my opinion, her character was poor, and she was acting for the stage rather for TV or film, or you know, what I mean, her acting was just over the top. I found, but anyway,
she at the time, I don't think she'd done a great deal of dramatic TV
William.
since her childhood, and so we got this really quite earnest performance.
Well,
I mean, now
you know, there was no one to control her, was there? I mean, the way they used to shoot in those days was from the gallery, and there's like 6 cameras on the floor, and director was up there.
And dialogue like
exactly.
that, I suppose, in situations like that, you know, bigger than reality. They're hard to sell anyway, I suppose, aren't they?
And just remember as well, all they had to do was get it in the can.
Yeah, exactly.
Get it in the can 5 minutes ago. Hurry up. Yeah. Never mind that. Get it done. You know, get it done. I mean, Gary Downey was always saying that he used to love going around saying, get it in! You know, he would really push them. You've got 5 minutes. And he would love that because, well, he was one of these people that was quite in control, you know, and he felt he would lord it over people. But, you know, it was the sign of the times there. But, you know, that's what that's about. And that answers that question, I think, doesn't it?
You're absolutely right, JT.
Do we now understand what the catharsis of spurious morality means? Yeah,
who cares?
That'll do. I sort of deciphered it as well over the years, but of course, you sort of coach yourself through it and you put it together, and then it stays there. And then when you get sort of pulled out the pack like that, you go, oh, okay, and you have to you do have to retrace your steps with it. It's not what you'd call naturalistic dialogue. That is not a phrase that people are ever going to really say.
But a Time Lord might.
And even exactly. But even in adventure fiction, maybe they were slightly at fault. Maybe it was slightly too much. But I do see why they chose and put their dialogue together the way that they did, and I appreciate them for it. You said, JT, I could tell I was being challenged, and I was never. The entire script wasn't sort of line after line after line like that, and Yeah, so I could forgive them. We've got one more question here.
I mean, you have to forgive them as well, because occasionally, as I say there, a Time Lord, a Gallifreyan, a Time Lord especially, would say something which is way above what a human would do. Their speech was different. Their experiences are different. Yeah. That's where the news show founded, actually. When the Doctor keeps saying what and all this, and he's dumbed down a bit, go away. You're a Time Lord.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I enjoy, JT, so much about the Mark of the Rani when we've got the three of them talking.
That's Pip and Jane again. Love Mark of the Rani. Sorry, you wanted another question.
Let's take the last question. So this is a longer one, and I didn't quite understand this when I first read it, but okay, here we go. Why do you think, Big Finish, what merchandise companies and the national press have become inconsistent in comparison to the Chibnall Empire? So I think what they mean is, why have merchandisers and the press got different party lines on current Doctor Who? For example, the Mirror recently reported lied. They reported, they got their sources, I would imagine. The Mirror recently reported that Ollie Alexander would be the first gay actor to play the Time Lord, despite Chibnall declaring the Doctor never was one. So what you're saying is that in media speak, when the Mirror, it was the Sun that broke that particular story, but when a newspaper breaks a story like this about an actor playing a Time Lord, but Chibnall has now stated that the Doctor never was a Time Lord. For me, this is really quite simple. This is the fact that tabloid journalists, in fact, journalists generally, are quite a lazy breed, and they don't do their research about the important things. So why would they be up to date on ephemera, on trivia from a TV show that used to be really popular? I mean, what do you think about this one, JT? I mean, I know you don't watch the show as it is now, but the way the media works, you can't expect them to be lockstep, up to date with every change of every script and every stupid thing that Chris Chibnall says.
Well, no, and of course they're not, because nobody is. Under 4 million people are watching the Chibnall era. That's about to go down again. Huge prediction here for me right now. It's about to go down again. Nobody's watching the show. The Doctor is a Time Lord. It doesn't matter what Chibnall does to it. To the general British public and to the majority of the fans, the Doctor is a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey. This little bit that Chibnall's trying to bring in will be forgotten, as Simon said earlier. It's going to go because it hasn't been accepted. The media don't give a toss. We were saying last week on last week's show, and do check it out, that this whole thing about Ollie being the Doctor, it's just a tick boxing exercise. And we spoke about it way back at the beginning of the year, because it tied in with a very mischievous Russell T Davies plugging his new show, It's a Sin, saying, I think Ollie would be a great Doctor Who. Ooh, huge publicity for the show. That's how the media works. They might be late picking it up. And again, I'd like to say to them, because they're probably watching this, hi, hope you're enjoying it. Take as much content as you want, but do send the royalties. So it's a real case there of what's out there. It's nothing. They don't care about fandom. They don't care about the continuity. They don't give a toss. When it comes to the casting of a new Doctor, there will be 13, possibly 14 other pictures there, and it'll be the ones that are unknown. And that as fans think about this thing differently, and they worry about little minute things. The press don't give a toss about any of that. They're just headline. Well,
there's only so many words in an average article, particularly a tabloid newspaper as well, isn't the sign?
It was a space filler as well.
To pull out things that they know people recognise, like Time Lord, Dalek, the TARDIS travelling Time Lord, all that kind. That's how it works, isn't it, Simon?
Absolutely. And the thing is, with the press, with the tabloid papers in particular, they just look. They've got so many column inches to fill that they will just always print stuff about Doctor Who. Doctor Who is always going to be one of those stories that they'll constantly, doesn't matter if they get the slightest whiff of anything to do with Doctor Who that they can maybe do 3 inches on, they will do it, and they'll put a photo in, and they've filled a quarter of their page. So they're always going to do that. And JT's right. They don't care about continuity. They don't care about anything at all. But if they can just put a story in, as you say, Dan, about Daleks, TARDIS, just mention a few words that people will know, Doctor Who has just for years, for decades, has just been one of those stories that the press love, and they'll always print stories. And so it doesn't matter how appalling the show is, how terrible it's doing in the ratings, none of that matters. They will still keep on printing those stories because it just, the public know Doctor Who. They've got an angle on it, even if they haven't seen it for decades. They know the TARDIS, they know a Dalek on site, and so the press will always print something.
It is always space filler, and we have to remember as well that in the 90s, from 1989 onwards, Doctor Who was in the paper continually every year.
Yeah,
Paul Daniels is going to be the Doctor. Hugh Grant's going to be the Doctor. Some other undesirable is going to be the Doctor. Steven Spielberg's going to do a new series. The BBC are in negotiation. The same stories went on for ever in the 90s, an entire decade. It kept it in the public's consciousness, but that's the only thing really. It was all nonsense. Every single story was nonsense.
Is it possible that they did this because, so for instance, right, when this story broke, it would be on, say, for instance, is it the Daily Mirror or the Sun, Dan? Was it?
It was a Sunday paper. I think it was the Sunday Mirror.
Okay, so
it was the Sun that broke it originally.
All right. So do you think they did that because basically, like say, for instance, it got released on the Sun's website? They wanted people to visit the website.
Yeah, it's
the word. So basically, they didn't. Obviously, what JT is saying, they don't care. All they want is people to come to the website.
It's clickbait, Ian. It's clickbait online, or it's back in the day. Back in the day when people actually bought newspapers in their droves. Absolutely anything to do with Coronation Street or Doctor Who. I mean, I've got a whole collection up there of things from 1974 from the paper. So if there was a Doctor Who story, I would go and buy a paper, clip it out, and put it in that folder. You know, and I think a lot of us did that. And people would do it about. I mean, show business took off with the Ken and Deirdre and Mike thing, didn't it? That's when it all went boom. You know, that whole fair in Coronation Street. But that's all it is. It was just pure space filler. And Dan and I have had this conversation. We know this. They troll through the likes of the Type 40 Spacebook page on Facebook and other fan things. They watch the YouTube shows and they think, oh, that's interesting. Type, print. That's the job done.
I've seen it happen. I've seen it go through the process through Gallifrey Base. And you and I both know, Ian, that you know better than I do, in fact, that people are watching. People are listening.
But you know what? When I was a graphics artist, and what I'm just going to back up what JT just said. When I was a graphics artist, remember there was this story about someone having an affair with someone, and they came to our post-production company and they had a picture of the two people that may be having an affair, and they asked me whether I could make them come closer.
Oh yeah, and they do that with the public as well, don't they? And of course there were certain actors that are in Doctor Who that also had this in the 80s and the 90s, certain prolific actors, shall we say, who had all this whole thing and had their lives ruined for a little while because of what the press want you to do. I mean, it's just, we all know, there was a great saying when you had newspapers, we all know that today's news is tomorrow's fish and chip wrapping paper. We've got to keep that in context, and as fans, please keep that in content. You know, until you see something official, don't believe what the press say.
I want to say as well that whilst it's still so telling that a nonsense like this Ali Alexander thing, which is on the surface really quite harmless, and there's been kind of stories like this for a very long time, David Hasselhoff and all things like that. Stories like this are harmless, and usually they'd be a blip and they'd be forgotten in an afternoon. But the reason why they get latched onto now, it's not just because of social media, it's because people are forgetting why they used to like the show.
Absolutely.
Forgetting what the show was about. There's no audience identifying character in there at all now. And there's nobody they recognize as the hero, their childhood hero, that icon. And so they hear something that excites them for whatever reason. It could be the silliest reason. It could be for a reason that's incorrect, like the thing that Problem Being was just saying in the chat about Ollie being the first gay actor. You know, whatever. You can hang it on any peg at all. None of that really matters. But when something like this brings Doctor Who back into the public arena, and you realise that people actually do want to watch the show, to have sent the amount of people away in their millions, as Chris Chibnall has managed to do over the last 3 or 4 years, it's a hell of a feat, because there's a massive amount of affection, certainly the British public, for Doctor Who that stretches back generations. And the crux of it is that's why merchandisers, what few merchandisers do, still chase license for this show. That's why they remain people who make the calendars or whatever. And that is why the newspapers do round on these stories and latch on to anything they can, because they're, and it just the same as it would prompt someone like JT or myself to buy that newspaper that they wouldn't normally buy, but I'm going to hand over my 30p because it mentions Doctor Who for a page. It's the same. That was clickbait too, and now it gets us going to websites that we kind of feel dirty for clicking on.
Except back in the old days ago, a lot of the stories were revolving around companion leaving, new companion coming in. There weren't that many rumours there. I remember one thing I've got from, I think it was the Mail years and years ago, was a whole page coverage of Liz and Ian Marter opening up a Doctor Who exhibition on Sunset Strip. And that was the paper for you. This is before the magazine, Doctor Who Weekly and stuff. But that was a true story, and there's pictures of them having a lovely time, obviously on an all-expenses paid holiday. But what was the first part of that question about merchandise? And I was interested in that as well, because I would question now, there is less merchandise around now than there has been. And the quality of it is what I would deem to be safe. DVD, Blu-ray, book. I can't talk much about Bog Fanish because that's an ongoing license. But from what Dan has said and what we've talked about on this show, they are going to join the Chibnall look of it. So that's that. Everything else, I don't think is around.
I think what the person who asked the question meant more so was the fact that in their publicity material, they will still build things about, the Time Lord's back for another box set of adventures. It's still part of the lexicon. Which is
because he is. I mean, when you're looking at the things that sell, as we've discovered here, and as we know is proven, whether people like it or not, it's not the Chibnall era. That's gone. It just disappears. But when you are talking about the Doctor, which is Doctor 1 to 7, and then if you like from 8 to 12, he is a Time Lord. And the Time Lord is back when his new season comes out on Blu-ray. And hopefully we're going to get the next announcement soon of if there's 2 more coming out this side of Christmas. If they want to say the Time Lord's back, they have every right to do that because he is. It's just this small little part of the series now in its long history, which none of us are watching.
And when you hear a phrase like that as well, all of us, the Time Lord is back, your ears prick up. You know exactly who they mean, which you don't even need to hear the title of the show.
But I have to ask the question, why did they not want Doctor Who to be a Time Lord?
Well, it's not they. It was just him. He wanted an origin story, and he wanted to move it on allegedly from the nonsense I've heard, and that's failed and it's flopped. But the great thing is that if and when the series ever does come back properly as the show we all know and love, what they will say is the Time Lord is back. That's what will happen. The public will go, "That's Doctor Who."
They have their strapline already. There are people out there. There are young people working their way up, just the same way as they were in the 90s. There are young people working their way up in the industry now who are going to reach into all this mess, peel away all this nonsense, and pick out a clean cut the foundation stone of Doctor Who again and restore it the same way that Russell T Davies managed to restore it and polish it up for a new generation. It could take a few years.
Well, let's hope it's the right young person, because what I see now in fandom, I mean, when the Ollie Alexander thing broke,
I'm not talking about fandom. I'm talking about filmmakers and.
Oh well, that's good, because that's what I mean. But but the whole thing about this issue is that a lot of this has infected young people all around in every sector and every career. I mean, I've heard of a story recently of a young person that was asked to leave a construction site because he was bothering on about his personal pronouns. Get a life, and he was asked to leave. So you've it's worrying in that sense, because I hope it's the right sort of adjusted, sensible young person that's going to come in. This is why I'm thinking, well, actually, it should really go back to our age group, because we're not bothered by all these labels. Maybe. And the Ollie Alexander, guess who was really happy about the Ollie Alexander news or rumor? It was all the tick boxing lot and all the rainbow-coloured community who are mental. It was just absolutely, I thought, there they are. There they are again, the alleged so-called activists.
I saw a lot of people, and there's a couple of people our age, round about our age, people I respect and like, and they were saying, oh, this is a really good idea because he is gay. Not because he is suitable for the part, because he's a great actor, because he's gay, and it'll flush all the bigots out.
Have to be about sexuality today? Why? I don't understand. Everything from Doctor Who to Star Trek to everything about sexuality.
Everything.
He has to be binary. He's this, he's that, whatever. Why don't you just concentrate on the story and make it better?
And I'm sick of the overriding conversation around this wonderful fantasy family adventure show being one about of identity and sexuality and all that kind of thing. I think it's swamping the cornerstones of the appeal of the show and the reason why it's been a success for nearly 60 years, as is. That's
why it's failing with the British public, because we are seeing the British public turning around against this stuff and questioning. I mean, we've got examples now of parents taking their children out of schools across the United Kingdom because of all this nonsense that's coming in. I'm generally worried about what's going on right now. Generally worried, and people like the BBC are leading it all.
I think we all are, and maybe you are too. That's probably why we get questions like this quite consistently.
Yeah, maybe.
And we don't want to go over old ground all the time, but we will give you honest answers. This is Type 40, and we are always honest, and we believe in voicing our opinions. And we don't. We've got no. I wouldn't.
We're
say
one of the few places that you're safe to voice your opinion on.
I wouldn't say we take the gloves off, but we will tell you what we genuinely think, and we will explain why we think it. It doesn't mean to say that we don't respect your views. It doesn't mean that we're not interested in your views. We sincerely are. But here you will get, in this instance, 4 guys who will tell you exactly how they feel. And, maybe, none of us are perfect. None of us have all the answers, but we just try here on this show to be who we really are. And, there's, warts and all, the contrarian side to me, I know that comes out. I certainly haven't got all the answers, but, I don't know where it's going to go. And it does worry me too, JT. And Ian, all the things that we see when we talk about all these facets of popular culture, all this stuff, I won't say it keeps me awake at night, but I do resent the fact that it's damaged so much that has made me who I am today. And, Simon, we've talked several times, haven't we, about how not being a maverick voice in particular, but being a bit of a voice of dissent, or just being somebody who is who has a sort of satirical sense of humor or reading of something, being playful with something, not taking it so deathly seriously, that can sometimes bring one foul of the system, can't it? Of the general sort of discourse around it. I don't think any of us are particularly afraid of that. Not at our age, are we?
But I think we should keep saying what's on our mind, especially when it comes to this subject, and I also think that everyone out there, if they think the same way we do, should, because you know why? Yeah, because our voices will be heard. We'll be if we all act the same way, they'll have no alternative but to listen to us. Do you know what I mean? The access media is trying to suppress what we're doing. They hate YouTube because we have this platform to talk, right? But we should use this platform to voice our opinions and keep pushing. This is our job, to keep pushing.
This is one of the things, though, because this is one of the few outlets that you can do, because people are now losing their jobs and their careers, their livelihoods, their houses, because they've expressed themselves. And expression in our individual is how we were all brought up, to express yourself and have respect for other people expressing yourself, and that's gone down the toilet now. And people are being hounded now, and it's shocking, really. I mean, there are times when even myself, I am afraid to say something now because of things that have happened to me recently, and and that's in a different capacity. It's very, very concerning that the only outlet we get are places like this where we can all talk as fans together and banter with each other.
Yeah, that's the key. We're not activists, everybody. We're fans, and we love talking about this stuff. We enjoy each other's company. We enjoy your company, and we love talking about Doctor Who and celebrating the TV show, the legend, the modern mythology that is Doctor Who. We like to share it all with you, and we'll be back in a few weeks' time to do it some more. But that wraps up the Ask Us Anything for this time. We're going to look at a pretty picture. We're going to get a pretty picture up. And where are we? This is the latest from the Prydonian. I had to bring this on. This is his latest take on. We had the evil of the Daleks earlier on. This is the power of the Daleks. Simon, just look at that Dalek processing line there.
Isn't it magnificent? Don't you love the way those balls are gleaming?
Why does it remind me of Meccano?
Yeah,
because it's the ridges, isn't it? It's all those sort of whole things in there and what have you. Yeah.
So, Simon, the original.
That's how you want Power of the Daleks to look, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yes, beautiful.
How close do you think this is, Simon, to the scene that was in in Power of the Daleks. Some of the story doesn't exist anymore.
I can imagine that being relatively close, at least in sort of composition. Obviously, it looks utterly stunning, and we know that they did the sequence in the show with Mark's Louis Mark's Daleks, which looked nothing like real Daleks, sadly. But
that was all right.
I think composition-wise, it isn't too far, because you're right. The Meccano stuff is there that I've always thought, it does look kind of Meccano-like.
Ian's right, isn't it?
The struts in Power of the Daleks. So I would imagine that's not a million miles off.
Yeah. I would imagine there was a reason why it did look like Meccano as well, because we're talking the 60s when Meccano was huge. Yeah. It was the toy that boys and some girls played with. It was in every household.
That's right, and maybe they did use it for the set, because of the fact that they were making them. They made this, obviously, that we're looking at now. It was a model at the time, and so they probably started with that and said, we can do that with Meccano, and they maybe then just transferred that into the full size set because it was easy to do. It's highly possible. Alex in the chat there is saying Hertz Daleks. Was it Hertz Daleks that they used then for Power of the Daleks? I thought
it was Louis Marks.
I thought it was Louis Marks. I thought it was Louis Marks. But anyway, whatever.
It was Louis Marks.
Daleks.
We continue to follow the work of the Prydonian. That's James Johnson on Twitter. He's a shy, retiring guy, only a young guy. Works so hard on these. I mean, I would imagine he's got a great career in front of him. Ian, what do you think?
I think he has. I think this is a beautiful piece of art.
It is.
That's all I can say, and you can't dispute that fact. Look how beautiful it looks, and the symmetry of the picture's really, really, really great.
And my very, very favourite bit in this is that tiny little bit of Dalek slice on the left-hand side in extreme close-up. That's I just love the way he's framed that, just with a tiny little bit of Dalek, where you can see the little rivets that are holding the slats together. It's just so well observed. It's
very reminiscent of the TV show where you would just have that image of a Dalek at the corner of the screen.
Correct. It's
brilliant.
Beautifully framed.
Yeah, well said. Now you've said it. I hadn't even noticed that. It's even got that slightly different, slightly different appendage there. Absolutely wonderful stuff. But as we are going on a break for just a couple of weeks, so people have asked in the chat, where are you going? Just a couple of weeks, breather. But there'll be more stuff coming up on the channel, I promise. But
can't go anywhere at the moment. All the airports are closed. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
I feel that we should, because we talk about James' work so often. Then just to say how much we admire what he's doing, and enjoy looking at this stuff, every little detail, taking it all in. Yeah, absolutely wonderful stuff. Keep on doing it. We'll keep looking at it. We'll keep bringing it to you. But obviously, you can go and follow James yourselves over on Twitter. Just before we go, Simon, let's tell people about this competition again. So, it's what can people win and how can they win it?
They can win a paperback copy of Clack, which has been very, very kindly donated by Candy Jar Books. The only sort of rule, unfortunately, on this one is sadly you can't enter it unless you've got a British address. It's going to cost so much money to send that overseas that unfortunately we can only send it to a UK address. So you don't have to be in the UK. You can enter from outside the UK as long as we can send the book to a UK address. Get it sent to a friend or a relative or something, and get to hold on to it until the madness has passed and you're meeting up with them. And it's really, really simple to win a paperback copy of Clack. All you got to do, I think I'm right on this, aren't I, Dan? That you've got to share our review video of Clack from Facebook. You've got to share it somewhere on Facebook. Spread the word.
Yeah, get sharing go.
Not a question or anything like that. No question. I was expecting a question like, where does Clack come from?
Oh, yeah.
What sort of Saturday Superstore is this?
We want everybody to be in a chance of winning this. So literally, all you've got to do, share the video.
I wanted questions.
You'll find the video. I think I'm right, Dan. Again, you'll find the video on the top of the Facebook page. It'll also be on the Lunatics Facebook page. So just share the video, and you've got to like and subscribe to our channel as well. You have to subscribe to the Facebook channel.
And by all means, you can share it. You can share it on Twitter too. Take the hot link, share it over on Twitter, and tag at Type 40 Doctor Who over on Twitter. We'll see that you've shared it there too. We'll get a notification, and we'll put all the names in a hat and pick one out at random and fire you off a copy of Clack.
And to be clear, it's not this video that you're now watching. It's our review. It's Dan and my review copy of our review video of Clack.
And the link, yes, you can find that on the Facebook page, and I'll pop the link to that in the description of this video too. But yeah, it's clearly labeled. It's
Share
our
it
review
everywhere.
of Clack. It's Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast reviews Clack. There we are. I think we could all. We'll be back to remind you about that a bit later.
How do people know who's won? Are we announcing it on the next show, or what's happening?
Yes, well, this is the thing, because we're going to be back in a few weeks' time. You see,
we'll draw it out live.
One of the things, yeah, we're going to reveal the winner live on air, and yes, you'll be
Don't be too surprised if I won. That's all I can say.
You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to.
Damn it!
You'll be getting your copy of Clack. The lucky winner will be getting their copy of Clack through the post. There, it's vibrant, says the talents of Wayne Shining. It is, and that's just Simon's shirt.
You'll be getting your copy of Clack and some lovely Swarthega with it.
They look great, says David Enke. Well, thank you very much, guys. We look great. Well, we appreciate that. Thank you. Nice to be admired, isn't it? I don't do Twitter either, says the talent. We'll get on Twitter, sort it out. Get on Facebook, get on Twitter, something like that.
Share it on Facebook. It doesn't matter. Just share it. As long as you share the video, doesn't matter.
Yeah, and Richard Brooks does remind us for the Facebookless ones, it's only £15, direct from Candy Jar. Yeah, as I said, you've got the links to that in the video too. If you go and find that video, you'll see if you want to pull the trigger. If you just want to go to the website, you can order your copy there. The art looks great. I don't do Facebook. Oh,
I don't blame your talents, to be honest. Social media is actually evil now. It's just David. I don't blame you.
It does us a lot of favours. I can't really say too much. But yes, David Enke says, please do hurry back. We're going to do our best. We'll run back in a few weeks' time. But yeah, thank you. That wraps up this episode, this live stream. Really
thank you for the questions.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic, this show. We're delighted because we didn't get them all. I think last time we had so many about Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall.
Yeah.
But this time,
you know what? That means we'll have to do a third. Ask me anything.
Really eclectic.
Is Christian still here? Is Christian still here? If Christian's still here, we've done 2.
Yes, Christian.
We know what you're doing watching this show, Christian. We know what you're doing. We see you
on YouTube. Yeah, kicking off right now. Actually, it's already started. It's the Rabbi from Another Planet. We've gone long today, but go and find the Rabbi. Go and give him our best. All I love, the Rabbi from Another Planet, our very favourite YouTuber, going at the moment live. And yeah, there's lots of other Doctor Who goodies on the Spacebook channel too for you to go and check out, including the Type 40 podcast itself, which you can stream or download anyway on type40.podbean.com, or get it on Spotify, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, all those places, and lots more of these live streams here for you to watch, for you to catch up on in our absence. Another over 25 now of these long-form conversations. You know, some of them are about the news, which may date them a little bit, but some of them are just long-form nonsense, us whittering on about all manner of Doctor Who trivia, deep dives into Doctor Who topics. Something for everybody in all of that. And there'll be a couple more videos to come out between now and then. They just won't be live. But yeah, we'll be back soon for the rest of this series 3. I'm calling this series. I call the podcast season and this series. For another block of live streams. But thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. And thank you to everybody out there watching.
They were fantastic.
Yeah, they were brilliant.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic stuff. More, please. Yeah, if you do think of some more questions, keep them stocked up for round 3. That'll be coming probably sometime later in the year. But yeah, we will be back soon, we promise. But that's us at Type 40 Live checking out for now. Bye-bye.